for those of us that have joined us, for the past few years since we started this initiative, we're familiar with my face. My name is Chidima, and for people that are new to Bidan's PE training, my name is Chidima Anyaliwichi, and I work as the research and development analyst at the Bank Directors Association of Nigeria. Once again, you are all welcome. So we'll quickly dive into the introduction of our facilitator for this morning's session. The facilitator is Mrs. Emanuela Tijani. I believe that she has already joined us. Mrs. Emanuela Tijani is a transformation and program leader with over a decade of experience translating executive vision into operational clarity, execution discipline, and measurable business outcomes. At Sterling Bank, which she used to work at, she served for nearly 5 years as senior executive assistant to the MD CEO, where she designed and managed the operating rhythm of the CEO's office and supported executive decision-making across strategy, governance, operations, and transformation. She later transitioned into product and strategy leadership roles, with her most recent role at the bank being head of card positions and partnerships. Having worked closely with executives at different levels, Mrs. Tijani understands the critical role executive assistants, technical assistants, and strategic support professionals play in protecting executive effectiveness, managing sensitive information, strengthening governance discipline, and reducing execution risk. She was one of the bank's internal consultants who helped define and scale its remote work model during the COVID-19 pandemic. She is a PMP certified program leader, a former member of the CIBN Gen Z and Innovation Committee, and the delegate to the CIBN 2025 to 2030 National Strategic Plan. Ms. Tijani speaks and writes on human-centered transformation, the intersection of strategy and execution, executive effectiveness, and AI adoption. For this session, she brings both lived experience from the executive office and broader transformation expertise to help participants reframe their roles as trusted partners in managing executive risk. Please let us welcome Mrs. Manuela Tijani for the session, Executive Risk, What You Are Really Managing. Thank you so much. Mrs. Tijani, please, you have the floor.
Hey, thank you. Can you hear me, please? Good morning.
Good morning,
Good
Mrs.
morning.
Tijani.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity. Good morning, Mrs. Unabo. I do hope I'm not missing any other person from Bidan. Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. Sorry to Bidan for the opportunity. Thank you, Ms. Chidima. Thank you so much. Good to see you again. Good to see you again. It's a pleasure to be here as well. And good morning, everyone. I'm not seeing all the names at once, but I know I see Clement on my screen. I see Moses, I see Uchechuku, and I'm sure other people from everywhere. But I'm happy this morning because I'm in the midst of my clique. I'm once an EA, always an EA at heart. I'm going to share my screen. Ms. Chidima, can you please confirm? Sorry, not sure what's wrong this morning, but can you confirm that I can share my screen?
Yes, I believe so. Go ahead, please.
Okay. I do that. Okay, please, I have to send a request. So I've sent that. Just please enable that. But please, everyone, can you please confirm that we are ready? Just give me an emoji, just send something just to know while we're doing that, to be sure that we're ready for the session this morning. Good, good. I see the thumbs up. Yes, thank you. Please keep them coming. I want to be sure that we are all here, set for this morning and ready to go, so that we're not leaving anyone behind, because what we're about to discuss this morning is very important and critical. Let me know when I have the access to do that. Yes, I do have the access now. And you can just give me a thumbs up as well when you can see my screen. Okay. I'll put this in presentation mode. Okay. Okay. I'm sure that everyone can see my screen. I think so. Ms. Chidima, can you please confirm? Can you see my screen?
Oh, yes.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, we're ready to go. We have about 70 minutes or so to get this very important conversation out of the way. And again, I want to thank Bidan for the opportunity to be here talking to the people I consider my community members. I mean, my introduction has been read. And as you can see, I spent the greater part of I think out of my 10 years plus in my career, 6 or 7 have actually been spent as a senior executive, as an assistant, executive assistant, and then later as a senior executive assistant. So I always like to say, like, the majority of my career so far, almost 11 years now, 6 or 7 out of those have been spent as an EA. So this domain is one I understand, and I appreciate the constraints and all the issues, especially within the Nigerian domain, the unique issues that we face. Today, we're here to talk about executive risk, what you are really managing. And this is going to be a working session where we practically discuss the points that I have here for you today. It's not a theoretical one. It's a space where we're going to really deep dive into executive risk and how it relates to you as an assistant, whether you're a technical assistant, whether you're an admin assistant, whether you're an executive assistant, but I see that the majority are executive assistants from what I received. Now, this session is a working session, like I've said. It covers the risks that you're already managing, and it's a practice space. So we're going to practice through the things that I'm going to share with you today. And it's not a risk management class. I believe there's another session that is going to give us the broader scope from a governance perspective, from a company secretarial perspective. This is a hands-on practical session that really entails the relationship between you and your executive and what has that got to do with executive risk and what you're really managing in the broader sense. It's also not a celebration of the assistant role as a destination. And this is critical for me because of what I have seen you say. I had to analyze what I received from the pre-session assessment, and you're going to see the results in a short while, which informed most of the content that I placed here. There are 3 questions that we're going to answer today. And as we go along, please keep these 3 questions in mind. Number 1 is, what risks am I already managing around my executive? I'll tell you why it's important for you to know this, number 1. It gives you a language for what you're already doing. And this is important to me because in this session today, one of the things that I'm going to come back to this slide, here is what you're telling me in this session. From the pre-session assessment and the analysis I made of your responses, this is what I see people saying to me as I go into this session. Number 1 is that 65% of you want growth beyond the assistant role. You listed it as part of your 3 priorities, and 6 out of the 20 people that responded ranked it as number 1. I think the next thing to it is 2 people who ranked a particular segment as number 1. The next key thing is that 4.1 versus 4.0 over 5 sees that there is the confidence in spotting risk versus the ease of raising it. And 50% of you who responded cited the fear of overstepping as the main issue when it comes to raising the risks. This is important, I believe, even for BDAN, because when we have trainings for directors, these are some of the things that we need to put into consideration. You know, when I did the analysis, I saw that 50% of people who responded cited the fear of overstepping as one of the major issues that, prevents them from raising risk issues when they spot it. And then 85% of you are already using AI tools, but out of these 85%, only 55% have clear organizational guidance. And I'm going to come back to how this informed the 3 questions we're going to be answering today. Because of the number of people that want growth beyond the assistant role, I wanted to make sure that we understand what risks you're already managing. It gives you a language for the risks that you're already managing in your role as an assistant today. And I'm saying it because the number of years I've spent being an assistant, when I moved out of the role, when you are in the EA role, there is this thing where your entire, I'll call it your entire branding is around the executive. And many times we don't step out of the role momentarily, whether in our minds or not, to see what we are actually doing in the role and put a language to what we are doing. So that whether in a conversation with our executive or in a conversation with other people outside the organization, we can coherently say what we are doing and how we are adding value. Now, risk management is one of the key things that an assistant does. So being able to have the language for that risk management is important. So that's why in today's session, we're going to be covering the risks that you're already managing. The second one is, how do I raise concerns without overstepping? Because the results show that that was the major issue. The issue is not about spotting risks. Some of you already know what counts as risks in your organization for your executives. But the major issue is, how do I raise this risk? How do I raise these concerns without overstepping, considering temperament, considering politics, considering quite a number of things that the Nigerian environment uniquely has for you to consider. Now, the third thing is, how do I position myself for growth beyond the assistant role? So we're going to be answering these three questions today. Please have them in mind as we go along. Now, the big idea is this. The big idea is, number one, the major thing that I'm going to be anchoring everything I'm going to share with you around today is, number one, the executive assistant seat is one of the most powerful learning seats in the organization, any organization. And it's important for you because when you're thinking about transitioning beyond that role, I want you to be asking yourself one critical question. Even when it comes to risk management, ask yourself one question. What am I learning? In fact, if you have to step back every weekend and actually write down the things that you are learning and how you are contributing, this is not part of what Biden has asked me to say. But because I am, in the midst of my community, like I said, these are some of the things that are very dear to my heart. One of the things I struggle with outside the role, even when it came to risk management and everything, is having the language for what I was learning, is understanding all the banking terminologies, all the commercial language for the work that I'm doing. As assistants, you get so used to managing the operational side of work that you don't have enough language to define the risks that you're seeing and what you're actually doing. So for me, I see the EA role as one of the most powerful learning seats in any organization. And because of this, one of the critical things that you need to start asking yourself when it comes to risk management or other aspects of the work is, what am I learning? How am I articulating what I'm learning? Because it also improves your worth to your executive and determines how much they listen to you and how open they are to the risks that you spot and how you're raising them. Now, number two is, what you notice from the EA seat is not meant to be held silently. It must be handled wisely. So we're talking about risk management today. It's one thing to spot risks. It's another thing to actually ensure that that risk is channeled to the right place. And then the action that is to be taken, it's actually taken on the back of that. Number three is, doing this work well is how you serve your executive today. It's also how you build the case for whatever you are going to choose to do next. And somebody is wondering, why are we talking all this preamble? When are we getting into the meat of the matter? We're getting there soon. So please stay with me as we go along. I'm going to have a time for question and answer beyond your case study. So I'm going to take all of those as well. Now, what is executive risk? We're coming to the meat of the conversation today. What is executive risk? Because if an EA sees the topic, they might like, oh, this is not really the typical things I want to learn. I want to learn how to manage my executive. I want to learn how to get promotion within the role. I want to learn other things that helps me do the work better and positions me better. Why am I learning about executive risk? Why is it important? Executive risk is the set of exposures that can weaken your executive's effectiveness. Let me say this first before we go to the formal definition. For when we talk about executive risk, we're not talking about your executive only. We're talking about the exposures around him or her. We're talking about the exposures around your executive, not only about them. It's not just about your executive. It's about the exposures around your executive that would affect the effectiveness of him or her, how he's able to contribute to the organization, and even affect the effectiveness or the reputation of the organization as a whole. So please see executive risk beyond your executive. It is not simply about the relationship between you and your executive. I'm talking about a broader view affecting the entire organization. Why is this important for you as an EA? You see the circles I drew, the circles that you see on my slides here, it represents you and your executive. From the place where your executive sits, they have a bird's eye view to the organization, more like a strategic overview. You as an assistant have a different view. Many of you here today, you know the things that your executive does not know. And that's the fact. You know what some of the things that your executive does, and executives should know more than assistants. But the truth is that we end up knowing a number of things because our views are different. They are at the top, concerned with the high level things. We support the top, and we also support laterally. We support across the organization. We see deeper than they do. They see wider many times. So they have, you can call it a summarized view of the organization. You as an EA, you don't just have a summarized view from the top. Sometimes you enter rooms that your executive does not enter. If this is something that you agree with, let me just give me something to let me know that I'm speaking, your mind here. And because of the view that you have to the organization, what you see as risk, the risk that you have exposure to, and how you perceive risk is way different from your executive. Your executive will probably be concerned about the bigger things, but for you, you know the memo the email that should have been responded that was not responded. How many times will you see, for those of you who have access, I had access to my boss's email after my first year or so. And so I could see some of the emails that maybe because he's busy or something have been left unanswered. And the ones that will cause a big issue if we continue to leave them unanswered. I could see the meeting that should have held that did not hold. I could also see the people, C-suite executives, from their body language, things that could, crystallize to risks later that he might not be able to notice because of the view that he has, which is different from my own view. Now, considering all of this, executive risk is the set of exposures that can weaken your executive's, number one, please follow along, effectiveness. Number two, judgment. Number three, reputation. Number four, relationships. And then finally, the entire institution as a whole. Whatever has the power, whatever exposure has the possibility to weaken all of these things for your executive can be categorized as an executive risk. It's important for you because that is what you're really managing. I'm not talking only about public scandals. We've heard, maybe not in your specific organization, but we've heard of scandals. We've heard of documents that have been leaked. We've heard of all kinds of things in some organizations for some executives. Now, these are big risks that are very obvious, but I'm also talking about the smaller things that can be overlooked, but they are very important. I'm talking about an email to an important stakeholder that was left unanswered. I'm talking about a memo that contained incomplete or inaccurate information that is going to be sent to a regulator. I'm talking about many areas of the work today that is it has the capacity to weaken your executive's effectiveness, your executive's judgment. Because one of the key things of our role is to actually make our executive, number one, look good, whether you like it or not. Number two, be able to do the work that they uniquely can do while you handle the other things around. So you need to always keep an eye out for those things that have the possibility to weaken your executive's effectiveness, judgment, reputation, relationships. Some of them are not visible. And that's why in your EA role on a day-to-day, you have to keep your eyes, your ears, even your nose, everything open, because sometimes the view that your executive have is not what you have. You have a broader and deeper view many times within the organization. You can walk into, let me give an example. When I was working with my boss, for quite a while, I was joining the staff boss, right? I could be in the staff boss and I'm hearing my executive, if he enters a staff boss today, for banks, I know many banks have staff bosses. If he enters a staff bus today, I'm telling you, from the office to the destination, nobody will talk. I'm sure, I'm not guessing. Many times, 9 out of 10, if your executive walks into some rooms today, people will keep shut until he leaves or she leaves. But because you're an EA, especially if you have built trust with the people who are working within the organization, many times when you walk into a room, people still keep talking. They don't feel like they're under any threat because That is the power. So when you're an EA, you listen to things, you feel the mood of the organization, and you also see things. So your sight and your hearing, everything about how you perceive must be sharp, because essentially executive risk is any set of exposures that can weaken your executive's effectiveness, judgment, reputation, relationships, or the institution they represent. I give a small example. Because of the access I have to my boss's email, there are emails that I respond to on his behalf because I know what not responding can cause, even as small as they are, seemingly small. So you have to be the eyes that go everywhere, not just for your executive. Please remember before we leave the slide, also for the entire organization. Now, 4 risks that you're really managing. There are 4 risks I see every EA really manage in their role. Number 1 is what I call the signal and the communication risk. Signal and communication risk. Why signal? What exactly is signal risk? How does it relate to communication risk? Now, communication is not only about what you say. That's why there's signal there. The reason I put signal here is because communication is not just about what you say. What you didn't say is part of communication. Your body language is part of communication. When it comes to communication, your body language is part of communication. The things that you left unsaid is part of communication. And so, any risk that is around what was said, the tone with which it was said, what was left unsaid, the silence, the timing of what was said, the confidentiality of what is being said is actually a signal and communication risk. It could be from your executive. Maybe your executive unknowingly replied all, or because he's tired, because he or she is not as focused for the day because they're having back-to-back meeting. They're just responding. How many times do you see an executive respond to everybody? Like they just reply all and they say something confidential that shouldn't be all, that shouldn't be involving everybody. So essentially, communication risk, again, remember as we go along, these risks do not originate only from your executive. They can originate from anybody within the organization and even outside of the organization. So number 1, signal and communication risk. What the executive's word, the silence, timing, tone, and presence are communicating. Let me make it more practical. There are things that your executive will say or not say that could crystallize to a risk later. It is your role as an EA to start noting those things. And when we come to the part where I show you how to present some of these things, because 55% of the respondents said, I don't know how to raise these things. I spot the things that are not going well. I spot something that should be flagged. But when it comes to flagging it, actually, I'm not sure whether it's the right time. My boss's temperament is like weather. Like, I'm not sure because I don't want any trouble. Right? But here is it. It's better for you to know the risk that you're handling. Remember, I told you that one of the things we're going to be discussing is I'm going to give you language for the risks that you're managing so that even outside your role, if you want to raise up your hand and say, I'm a risk manager, because every EA is a risk manager, you don't just say, I manage calendar. You don't just say, I manage schedules. You are actually a risk manager and you are able to articulate the risks that you manage in your own right. Because there's so much that we do within this role that we need to find vocabulary for and actually articulate better for even opportunities within and outside our organizations. So number 1, the signal and communication risk. Number 2 risk that you are managing is confidentiality and information risk. Many of you here, you handle board reports. You see things as they happen. When I was working as a senior executive assistant, I sat in the EXCO meetings. I sat in executive committee meetings back to back. I mean, EXCO meetings where there are only EDs, MD sitting in it and discussing things about the organization. I sat in it because I needed to take, we needed to take notes, share, follow up and all of that. But guess what? Some of the things that I saw, and I'm saying this here because we are a room of EAs and I get the work that we do. I'm not saying this to show things about my organization that I used to work with or expose certain things. Never. I will never do that because even outside the role, I still hold dear my role as someone who is an information conductor and who keeps these things confidential. because of the access I have to critical information, if you have attended an exco meeting before, you know the kind of things that are being discussed. I mean, very weighty things that affect both the organization and even outside the organization. But you are never to even hint anything in a discussion with even HR. Because even some of the things discussed affected HR themselves, but you cannot even hint it in, suggest that you know the information. So one of the risks that you manage, depending on the scope of your work, is confidentiality and information risk. Because you're exposed to memos. Some of you see memos from HR. You see the people that are going to be let go before they're let go. Let's be frank. You see, especially if you work with an MD, you see the key things at the heart of the organization. So how sensitive information is exposed, mishandled, especially in today's social media world, where a simple screenshot sent to the wrong person in the wrong hands can get viral in the shortest term. You need to be careful. So confidentiality and information risk is one thing. The third one is capacity and decision quality risk. What is the capacity and decision quality risk? It's the capacity of your executive to make the right decision. And that's why both of them go hand in hand. For many of us, you think you are just booking meetings and you're booking things in your executive's calendar. I'm going to put it to you that what you're actually managing is capacity risk. Because it is more than just booking calendar, booking time for your bosses. If you book back-to-back meetings, for example, you are not managing capacity risk well. Because when you book back-to-back meetings without a room to breathe, your executive is a human. There is every possibility that when they jump from one meeting straight into another without break, without taking time to read what the next meeting is about, their ability to function at a high level at the next meeting will be impaired. And so the ability to make the right decision will be impaired. Imagine if it's you, for example, you jump out of this bid and training, you enter into another one. You enter into another one. When your child, or let me just use an example, your sister or anyone within your space comes to you and wants to make, there is a high probability that you're like, go ahead and just do it because I want to reduce the amount of psychological space I want to put to things today. So just go ahead and do it. That way, your decision is not at a very high quality. So capacity risk is what you're managing. You're managing your ability, your executive's ability, his capacity or her capacity to manage the things that they should manage on a day-to-day. The final one is stakeholder reputation and governance risk. And this is where the relationship between your executive and the broader organization, as well as the broader public. So talk about with the board, relationship with the board. We know all of these things. There are some things that, we're being careful to say. You know the times when your executive has someone on the board that their relationship is not 100. It's just here or there. But you know that person is important in the scope of things. So because you know that relationship is like that, your boss will not likely be giving that person the face or the thing that they require 100%. So it's left for you to step in where required because you know whether he or she likes that person. The relationship is important for the work. Remember the definition. It's important for the effectiveness. It's important for the relationship. It's important for the judgment. So these are the 4 risks you're really managing. Now let's come to the framework, the main framework that we're going to be discussing today, because it's part of what is going to determine the case study. And please let me also stop here and confirm if we received the case study beforehand, or can anyone please confirm to me, do you have the case study?
No,
I was going to propose a general case study.
Case studies have not been shared with participants. After this session, we have a breakout session after which, the participants in the different sessions will go through the case studies, discuss it amongst themselves, and then present. They come back and present.
All right. Okay, Ms. Chinama, just before you go, I wanted to propose something, but again, it's optional. In my slides today, after I saw the responses from everyone, I did an alternative case study that helps us to practicalize what this framework is about. Since most of the responses were around, I don't know how to raise these risks. But if not, if it's going to be short term and not neat in execution, we're just going to go ahead with the 3 case studies I sent ahead. But the case study is inside of these slides if we're going to take them we decide as we go along. I just wanted to confirm that.
Yes, I think
All
we can
right.
go ahead with the case studies you prepared.
Okay.
Yes, go on.
Okay. So
But do you want
let's see go ahead. Go ahead, please.
Fine.
Sorry.
No, go ahead. I'll send you a message privately, but you can go ahead.
Okay. Now let's go to the framework because now that we understand what executive risk is, we understand that it's any exposure that has the capacity to impair or affect your executive's effectiveness, judgment, relationships, and every other thing that allows him or her to do the job well. And we've also seen the categories of risks that an EA would normally manage. Let's look at the framework. What is that framework for managing executive risk? Now we've defined executive risk. Many of us see it. We have a language for it. We can spot it from a mile. Even when I gave you the categories of risks here, you're already thinking about the risks that you see on a day-to-day that fall within these categories. Now let's talk about the frameworks for managing this risk. I'm going to give you four moves. That's four. It's like a chain, four of them. Number one is C, where you actually see the risk. You read the signal that people often miss, right? You are able to see because of your wider view, because of the view that you have uniquely as an EA, you are able to see the risk from a mile. Okay, I'll take some time to share this when I'm done. Okay, so you're able to see that risk from a mile, right? So number one, when you're talking about executive risk, you need to see. Please let me spend some time here because it's important. When I say see, I'm not just talking about, oh, I saw a memo. I saw my executive's name on a news piece. I saw no. I'm saying you have to read the signal. I told you earlier when I was starting, when it comes to seeing, I'm talking about your ears, I'm talking about your eyes, I'm talking about your senses. That there's something that you cannot name, but you perceive. I'm talking about perception. I'm talking about everything. You're reading body language, you're seeing things. Part of the tools that you need to see is not just your eyes and part of your body only. Sometimes you need technology, you need tools to see. For example, when I was working with my boss from the first year or so, I set up a Google Alert that I have not disabled until today. So either way, till today, I still get a Google Alert on my boss till today. I've left the organization. But I've not been able to go back and stop it. I'm still interested in seeing what's up with him, right? Just seeing how he's faring. So what does the Google Alert do for me? The Google Alerts help me to set alerts on the boss. I put his full name. So anytime there is a news piece around his name, I get a Google alert. I get an alert in my email to say this person is in the news. So Google is able to crawl through the website and bring me news about the person. Once they spot his name in a news piece, they send me an alert on my email. There's a news about this person. So before anything becomes maybe very wide, I can already see news pieces that were talking about him. I can already see, I also set an alert on the bank itself. I set an alert on the bank so that Google can alert me when there are key news items on the bank in my email. So I'm telling you, it's not just your eyes, it's not just your physical senses. I'm talking about tools as well that you can use to set things in motion. I'm also talking about your understanding of politics, your understanding of the web of relationship across the organization. You know the people that are critical stakeholders. So your ability to see what they're doing will be different from, other people. You will show more interest in what is going on in that organization, in that department, in that, even if it's an entity, let's say NGX, your bank is on stock exchange, your bank is you need to see some stakeholders more than you see some others. So again, being able to prioritize things, being able to measure which one is more important, which one should I have a view on, is critical when I talk about C. So when I talk about managing executive risks, the first thing you must do is see, because the risks that you cannot see, you cannot manage. And part of how you see is not just in your physical senses, is in your tool, is in your understanding of the relationship is in your understanding of the commercial equation of the business. When I talk about commercial equation, I see assistants looking at me like, what do you mean? I mean, understanding the business of the business. Per time, your bank is in different levels. There are times when your bank is going public, they have an IPO, they have, they're trying to raise, they're doing the recapitalization, they're trying to hire key people, they're trying to do these different phases at different stages. You need to understand those things. If you don't understand them, you cannot see. You need to understand what phase is your bank at and what kind of risk is important to us around this time. So C, number one. Number two is name, your ability to actually name the risk, which I've shown you the broad categories. Your ability to put it in language beyond, of course, you're not going to walk up to your boss and say, I see a signal and communication risk. No, your boss does not understand that. It's not language. I mean, you have to talk to your boss in clear language. That's why part of this executive risk we're taking today is understanding the language of the business. Let me go back again because I want to stay on this slide as it's one of the most important slides I have here. Part of your ability to see, aside from tools and technology, is understanding the business itself. I told you that you, as an EA, you are at a learning advantage. You see many things. You must understand. In my first year, I think it's in the second year, my boss appraisal for me was Emanuela is effective at work organization. She's a very effective executive assistant, but needs to understand risk management and credit. I think it was in my first year. He was writing like, I need to understand risk management and credit because you cannot work with an MD and you don't understand when they bring a memo about, credit risk, management credit committee is meeting and all of those things. And you're just looking at it like, what exactly? This thing sounds like Greek to me. No, whatever business you are in, but because you are in banking, you can say I'm not a numbers person. That's the first thing I told my boss when he was about to hire me. I'm not a numbers person. And he told me the truth back. He said, you have to be a numbers person. It's not Greek. You're in a banking role. You need to understand the numbers. So you need to understand the business so you can talk effectively. Because part of the issue that you have with raising these things is your inability to effectively articulate what you're seeing. That's why you are in a meeting with someone. You understand what they're saying, but because they've been able to articulate it more, those seniors are more willing to respond. They're willing to listen. So naming is important. Number three is raise. How are you able to take what you see after you have named it? How are you able to raise it? And when I'm saying raise, I'm saying raise it with the right person. Sometimes it's not your executive. Let's be clear. Sometimes it is not your executive. When you see some risk and you spot them and you can name them, some of those things are not your executive's work. It's not, you don't need to go back to your executive necessarily. Some of the raising has to be raised with the CHRO. Some of the raising has to be raised with, the head of risk. And that's one thing over the course of my career I've always done. There's some risk I spot. There's some things I spot. I don't even tell my boss at all because I see myself as a gatekeeper, someone who is managing his effectiveness. Not everything should come to him. Sometimes I walk straight to the person who has influence and we have a discussion. But let me tell you, before you can get there, you need to build trust. People need to trust that number one, as a person, they can trust you, they can trust your character. Number two, they can trust your competency. Your ability to understand that, yes, this is not about you getting your name on the promotion list. This is for the effectiveness of the organization. When people know that they're able to respond better. So the last one is your ability to hold. So when you raise a risk, that's not the end of risk, managing executive risk. Sometimes what you have raised, you need to know how long do I sit with it after I have raised? Because people don't really act immediately sometimes. So you need to see it until that risk is clear that this is no more a risk for us. Okay, so this one, we need to pay attention to it. This is a 4 framework you're also going to use when you're working on your case study. So I needed to stay with it. Okay, let's talk about how to raise something well. We're going to talk about how to raise something well. Because this is one of the major issues for us when we responded to our case studies. We said, the pre-assessment question. So many of us said, I see risks, but I'm not able to raise it well. There's a simple structure I want to give you. Simple structure. And then I'll show you the escalation ladder. That simple structure is number one, observation. This is different from the C. This one is working under the C. Remember, C, name, raise, hold. Under C, after you've seen, how do you raise well? That's what I'm saying. Most of what you're seeing here is under raise. So don't say you've given us C, name, raise, hold. Why are you giving us observation plus possible risk plus? Don't get confused by the formula. Stay with me. The first one is the framework for managing executive risk generally. You see it, you name it, you raise it, and then you hold until that risk is clear. Under raise, because raise was the most difficult for many of us. They're saying, my boss has a weather temperament. I don't know when I will talk to him. And it's like, I don't know. I can't even predict his mood at a time. So under raise, I decided to dive deeper on that raise. That's why you have this simple structure. My simple structure to you, and I'm aware that I'm talking to people who are working in a Nigerian setting. So sometimes you need to shift some things because the structure we have in Nigeria, the hierarchical structure, the unique structure, I would say, is different from other climes. That's why, again, you can't take what is working for an executive assistant in the West and just transpose it directly to your work. So under raise, the structure I'm going to give you is observe. Observe the mood. Understand when to raise. After you've observed, you're saying, here's what I have observed. That's also part of observation. So when you're raising something with your boss, here is what I have observed in very concise terms, very quickly. This is just a formula. I'm not saying that you start thinking about it, observe plus possible risk. No, I'm just saying the way you frame what you're saying to your boss is more likely to be accepted when you observe. You say, this is what I have observed. State it in concise terms. Here is what I have observed. Number two, here is the possible risk. And I'm telling you why this is important. That's why it's important that Bidan is having this session today. The reason why some of us are not getting the hearing that we should get, aside from, of course, temperament. I was talking to somebody, let me digress a bit, and I'm mindful of time as well because I'm trying to be very quick here. I was talking to someone who is not an EA recently, and he was talking about how his boss is not listening to him. Oh, my boss, every time I bring ideas, he's not taking it well. He's not listening to me. This guy is not listening. He goes above what I have said. I said, show me an example of the email. Because once an EA, always an EA. I'm like, except if this person is a driver, like he's just out to do, show me an example. When he showed me the email, I told him, your communication is not matching. Your boss is speaking data. The boss was so clear. He said, week to date, this is your value. Week to date for this month, June and May. Comparing May and January, we have a 0 point something. Then he was responding and he said, we had an unclear weather. This one happened. This is what affected us. They work in the logistics industry. So I was telling him, no, your communication is not matching. From my training as a certified world-class assistant, when I did my CWCA training, one thing it taught us is knowing the temperament or personality or color type of your boss. And this is not the reason for the session today, but let me touch on it quickly to show you what I mean. If a person is a red is mostly I don't want to call the person a driver, but they have an A-type personality. They want to command and control. They don't want to hear come after they've said go. That's a red personality. And it's not like they are bad. That's just who they are. If you come, maybe you're a blue, many EAs are blue and yellow, and I don't want to delve into it. But what I mean is I feel, I see, I perceive. That's a blue. That's more of blue and then a bit of yellow. And then the green person wants data, analytical to the core. Greens are very analytical. They are speaking data. If you speak to those kind of people in a way that doesn't match their communication, you're already losing them. And the reason why I went into it briefly is that MDs, EDs, and people at the top, they are wired to listen to risk. They are wired to hear the language of risk. So when you're raising something, you need to say the implication very quickly as well and concisely. You need to say, here is what I have observed. But it's not just your observation. What is your observation in the scheme of things? The importance of your observation in the scheme of things is, why is it important for you to know what I observed? That is where the possible risk comes into play. What do you need to know? Because your observation doesn't do anything if in the broader scope, there is no reason to it. If you observe something that you can handle, go ahead and handle it. Don't disturb me. That's what many people are like. But if there is a broader risk, name it very quickly. So observation plus possible risk plus respectful recommendation. And you're not doing this to take any shine. You're not doing this to maybe you're in a meeting with others and you're raising things there because you want to be seen as important. And you know all these things we read on LinkedIn, earn your seat at the table. So you want to earn your seat at the table and you're naming things in places where you should actually have named it behind a one-on-one in a one-on-one meeting. So that perception has to be there, first of all. But if you use this simple structure, it can help. But first of all, get clear the part of the political and all the temperamental things. Understand who your boss is, how they like to communicate. Also be able to understand their mood. How do they like to take information? Is it WhatsApp versus some people don't like calls? Is it all of those things you must know as an EA because it helps your communication and whatever you're raising more effective. The escalation ladder and I mean the other ones is a breeze because I know we're still going to go into the case studies now. The escalation ladder is clarify. I've given you a sample opening, giving you how to flag it, and then recommend, escalate, document. Because let's be honest, sometimes after you've escalated, some of these things will not be worked on. So you also need to document. You need to document what was agreed so that it's just something that you need to go through. So let's move on from this slide because it's clear. In the Q&A, you can bring me back just so that we can be very quick with what we're doing today. Because of the time, I'm also being mindful. So we're going to run through some of these things. Whichever one you want me to come back to, we're going to come back to. But I want us to go on to the case study because of our time. But why I took this one as scenario one, I gave some scenarios that we could use as we're going into our sessions. The scenario, and I know this because I've worked with different executives, not just my boss. There are people who they're EDs. Some people are even just chief C-suite executives or even managers. And this is part of what we deal with when we see them. I've tried to give you a weak version using that C name, raise, hold. How you can actually use that simple structure of observation, possible risk, and then respectful recommendation. That is what I try to put in practical terms here for you so that you're like observation, possible risk. How does this work practically? This is what it looks like when you're dealing with someone who is seemed to be a difficult temperament. Pardon the use of that word. It's because I'm in a practical training. That's why I'm using that word so that we're able to see clearly how this works. Okay. All right. Sorry, let me be sure of that. Okay. All right. So I've received confirmation that I'm good to go. Okay, thank you very much. So let's take them one by one so that we'll see clearly what I mean when I say see, name, raise, hold. And then we go to the under raise because raise was the major issue. We go to the observation plus possible risk plus respectful recommendation. We want to see it in practical terms, right? So you've seen that something, of course, your boss or whoever you're working with, it might not be MD, does not like being interrupted. And there's something that needs his attention, and there's a meeting coming up. So you have a short time. Because we've been in this situation many times where you have a short time to mention whatever you've spotted. And you're wondering, how do I ensure that this person gets because of the environment that we are working in, right? And again, these are the kind of questions I want to receive when we are talking about when we're in our Q&A. I want to see real practical, questions without relaying any confidential information, of course. But some of the things that we do when I was working with my boss, I see my boss as, very, very, and many times he'll tell me, be very clear. Part of your usefulness to me is also to tell me things that I do not see. So all this, of course, I know we have a unique culture. We didn't have a culture where you are deferring every time. You're like, sir. He's like, no. In fact, my boss then will say, call me by my first name. Because all this, your sir, will make you not tell me the things that I need to hear. Now, none of us have that kind of boss. So maintain every appendix you need to use it. But what I'm saying is don't be so different, like you are deferring so much that you are not even adding the value that you should add. So some of us will say, oh, sorry to disturb you. Oh, there's something small. Oh, you keep going around the observation. I've told you earlier, your observation is not so much useful when you cannot spot or articulate the risk in very short, concise terms, when you cannot tell us what is the possible risk. What exactly are you saying? Why is your observation important? So very quickly, you're saying before the board meeting, I saw something and I wanted you to have it. Like you're giving him, because number one, executives are always short of time. So your ability as well to say things concisely really matters here. Keep it short. Be able to articulate. That's why, aside from BDAN training, if there's one training you also need when it comes to high level it's communication training, persuasion training. All of these things are things that you must learn. How to persuade, how to communicate. It's important for you. I've sat in rooms where my boss says, handle that project. Emanuela, I'm not going to be in any meeting with them. I'm talking of external vendors from the UK, external vendors from the US, people who are very senior. And he's like, I'm leaving it in your hands. Go and handle them. And you have to be someone that is persuasive, where they're giving you things that your organization should do, and you're like, no, you are respectfully pushing it back and then communicating. So don't stop at these trainings that give you technical bandwidth. Also take on communication training, take on persuasion training, be able to communicate clearly what you see. Right. So lead with the substance is what I'm saying. Can you see what is changing between these two communication? Lead with the substance. And today's training is not about communication, more of it's about executive risk. Well, because part of the major things we've spotted is I know the risks to an extent. I've given you the language for it, but sometimes I don't know how to raise it. That's why we're taking time to talk about these things. So let the substance land on time. I don't know if you've listened to some people and you're like, get to the point, why am I telling me this thing? Get to the point quickly. So let the substance land. Give them the timing window, because again, executives, they think in time bands, like how many minutes of my time does this require? Because there's a lot of things to think about. Then the importance is also what is very clear before the board meeting already says, what should I hear before the board meeting? That means this must be important. Okay. So when you do not have, what about if you don't have the full information? So you think about something, but you cannot prove that that thing is happening. Because some of the risks that you spot, they fall into this category where you perceive, you are feeling it. You are feeling it, but you cannot, if they tell you, give me evidence, you can't bring it. Many of us have had these instances with our boss, something that we feel very strongly but cannot name because there's no proof for it. And sometimes it even goes on to things that are, I would dare say, scandalous in nature. Right? For this one, you're naming the concern, you're also owning the uncertainty. You're owning the fact that I don't have the full picture, but I wanted to bring it up to you because I believe that it's important based on my understanding of risks. This is important, and I want you to decide whether you want to investigate or not. So you need to understand, all these kind of scenarios when you're talking about raising, because not everything you are going to raise equally, right? Then number 3, which was the major one for many of us who responded, some of us, we fear overstepping. And when you work with senior people, you just have to be very careful. You need to see, how am I bringing these things up? Is it the right time? Is it the right way? Is it in the right frame? Do I even have the information? That's what going back to understanding your business. See, there are some risks that you can never articulate well if you don't understand that thing. So especially for those of us that want to grow out of this role, as we have indicated, maybe it's chief of staff, you're still managing an executive, but you want to do it in a broader scope. Please take, very importantly, the understanding of the business. The understanding of the business. That's why one of the things that even BDN can do, and CIBN and all the organizations, is to have trainings that give I would say, like a crash course in banking. The things that you really need to understand. Because if you want to function better, if you want to function from a more informed perspective, you need to understand the business. And I'm telling you this because my ability to work with my boss beyond, my soft skills and everything is shot up by a million margin. When I started understanding the business, I knew what was important and what could be skipped. It started giving me, like, I don't know how many of us have taken a course in something. After taking that course, you suddenly start seeing that thing everywhere. because you now have language for that thing. You now are able to perceive what you're saying. So when you have fear of overstepping, some of us say nothing. We don't want to say something. We're like, this is not my place. And before you know, everything just falls publicly. So you can, again, ask for permission. You're not taking any position. You can ask for permission. And then the answer will help you know. Please don't use my, don't just screenshot and use these exact words. Again, I told you some of your bosses, you cannot communicate with them in a formal way. There's a way. That way, some of you already know. It's just to know how to bring it up without overstepping. That's why I'm giving this that we're here. Okay. So I hear that this is going to be the case study is going to be like how many minutes later, but I wanted us to see what we will be discussing and then go back and take any of these aspects that we don't understand well before we take the case study. We're going to be having the case study in about 20 minutes or so. But before we split out to our groups, I wanted us to understand what we are doing so that if you have any questions before the case study, you're taking me back to the particular slide and I will address it before we go on our case study. So now here is the case study that we have for today. I named it, Sir, may I flag something? May I raise something? May I, whatever your language is, whatever you prefer. But here, what I want us to imagine is that you are the executive assistant to an ED in a Nigerian commercial bank. So your ED is very respected, very busy, and they're always on the move like all our executives are. They value loyalty and efficiency, but they don't always welcome contrary views under pressure. This is the kind of executive you're working with, and you're like, should I raise? Because sometimes they can just shun you or shut you down or anything like that. But there's a management committee meeting that reviews a customer remediation exercise, and because of complaints from customers about failed transfers, delayed reversals, and what have you. Now, you know that some high priority complaints may still be open, and one customer has threatened to escalate publicly to the regulator. You are not the report owner. You're the manager the manager who submitted it is close to your ED, and your ED has asked not to be disturbed. You remember that he's going into this meeting to discuss these things. And part of the memo says all high priority customer complaints have been handled, that the remaining cases are low risk. But because of what you know that no, that's not the truth. And the person who wrote that, the person who has the report, is close to the ED, right? The risk here is that the executive may unknowingly present an incorrect update. What do you do? That's the question here. And the question is intentional because there are some things I wanted us to answer. I wanted us to, if we're split into groups, group one is going to answer what risks are present. I want to be sure that we understood what I shared with you about the categories of risk, the type of risks, and how to name those things. Then number two, group two is going to talk about what should the assistant say first. Using the frameworks I've taught you, I've shown you the C, name, raise, hold. I've also taught you how to raise. So here you're using the raising framework, the one about this one where I showed you observation plus possible risk plus respectful recommendation. I want you to be able to dimension it very well. Then group three is going to talk about, what if the executive dismisses it? What is that follow-up action that you're going to take? And I'll prefer that we even maybe go into the case study now, the groups now. Ms. Chidima, if that's possible, for it is I want to be able to also have a teaching moment after the case study from each of these points so that we could use the time well, if that's possible. If not, we could, leave it until then and take questions so that if there's anything we don't understand from the breakout or the question, I can take them before we start going into our respective breakout rooms. But can I please get thumbs up or anything from everyone that we understand what we're about to what we're about to discuss in our breakout rooms for the case study? Are we good to go? Please let me know. Are we good to go? Do we have any questions? Can anyone hear me? Let me see the chat. I don't think I was. Okay. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Christiana. I see your yes. Okay. Please let me know. Is it only Christiana that understands what we are about to do? Are we all good to go? Please give me more responses. Okay. I see Uchichiko, yes. Basi, yes. Thank you. Oh, people are reacting. Thank you for letting me know, Uchichiko. I'm only seeing my slides, so I wasn't sure if we're reacting. I'm seeing my slides and I'm seeing a window. Okay. So are we good to go as well as for the breakout? Because we have a teaching, like I want to unpack it so that everything I have spoken about, it doesn't just stay at the level of theory. We actually do the practical. So, Ms. Chidima, can we do the breakout now? Just so that I have a few moments to unpack
Okay.
some of these things. Yes, please.
Okay. All right. So, hello everyone again. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to break everyone into different sessions, different groups. So you'll find yourself in either group one or group two. Just give me a few minutes to do that right now. Thank you so much. Hi all, welcome back to the general group. Thank you so much for all the discussions. I could hear group one going, group two going, yeah, I think we had a very productive conversation in our respective groups. So I hope we're ready to present group one. Where's your representative? Mr. Chichuku, I
Yeah,
remember.
I'm here. Yeah,
Perfect. Then Mr. Babatunde for
yeah.
group two. All right. Let's welcome back our facilitator so that she can listen attentively to our presentations. Whoever is iPhone, please, can you rename yourself to with your full name and the name of your bank, please? iPhone. Thank you so much. Please, I hope you can adhere to this. Please and please and please. And also, so I'm so sorry, Mrs. Tijani. Also, after the presentation, just before we go on our break, on our, let me see how many minutes, on our 10 minutes break, we would like for everybody to turn on their camera so that we can take a quick screenshot and we can smile, please. Thank you so much. So let's go ahead with our presentation. Group one, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Given the case study, we were able to identify four very key risks. The first being the reputational risks, the second being the regulatory risks, the third being the legal risks, and the fourth being the personal risks. So if there's any further clarification that they may need, I'm willing to
Okay.
answer.
I have further I require further clarification. So can you just give me concisely why
Yeah.
each of those risks? Just tell me why,
All
you
right.
choose each of those risks. Yeah.
All right, the first being the reputational risks. Remember, the case study says these are high priority complaints. Now, high priority complaints could be that the person who is making that complaint is really very important, or and the complaint itself is very, very important. And they have threatened to make this public. And when it's made public, we don't know if it's probably going to go on social media, it's whatever platforms they intend to use to make it public. It would definitely not look well for the reputation of the organization and may also change, of course, customers' perception. Then for number two, regulatory risks. They also threaten to report to the regulators. In that situation, it could be the CBN, it could be whatever financial institution that has been positioned to regulate that particular bank. And it could bring up some problems. It could also cause delay in the workflow, operational management, and the sort. So regulatory risks is definitely very important. Then you have legal risks. When the customer made a threat to escalate publicly, they didn't state where in particular. It could be in the court of law, it could be on the social media platform. And if these are priority complaints, definitely they have legal implications that could also expose the financial institution to further scrutiny. Then you have the last, which is the personal risks. Remember, the manager had sent in these reports to the executive director, and the EA spotted it. Now, the executive director definitely trusts the manager and his judgment from what we read, and will definitely go ahead to present that report if, nothing is done. Now, if should he present false data and all of that, he could be perceived in a way that he may not take he or she may not take very likely, and that could affect the trust perception he has for either the manager and his executive assistant. So that's where the personal risks come in. Both of them, the manager, the EA, could definitely either be given more oversight or their judgments will definitely be questioned going forward. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Good attempt, group one. I will take group two so that I can respond to both together since it's just a single case study. But well done, Uche, and thank you, and well done to group one as well for spotting those. So let's take group two.
Okay, thank you very much, and good morning, everyone. So, upon deliberation, a number of us were familiar with the case study. It happens to be something that we have faced at one point or the other in the course of the discharge of our duties. And there were some critical points that we discussed. So first things first, we all unanimously agreed that it's essential to manage this identified risk, just like the spokesperson for Group 1 I've just spoken, just identified rather, which are legal risk, reputational risk, and regulatory risk, and so on. So in an attempt to manage those risks, we also unanimously agreed that it's important to review the reports that the manager has submitted to be sure that all options have been exhausted in trying to manage the customer's grievance, because it's be an overreach to assume, or we may be wrong to assume that the manager has done all that is required to be done. So upon doing that, we also discussed amongst ourselves that it's essential to reach out to the customer, to acknowledge the customer, and also acknowledge the complaints and try to persuade the customer from going public and reporting to the regulator. So having taken those steps, so we also discussed that we only submit a brief of the reports alongside the remedial actions that have been taken before to our boss, whether the MD or the ED, so that he is assured that yes, this issue exists, but these and these and these are the steps that we've taken to save the bank and guide the bank against all these identified risks. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Babatunde. I'm going to take both of them, and then we quickly address a few things. I was quietly listening to one of the groups. I just, was quietly listening. So some things were raised that I took note of as we discussed the case study. A few people said they hadn't joined early, so they missed some part of it. So I'm going to have to run through some things, but some of the key things as well was someone gave the instance of how it happened recently with the bank. And I know that bank that you're talking about because we all saw it in the news where a customer came out to say, hey, these people they just deleted my money somehow, and is everywhere on social media. So that example was given. So yes, we see that kind of example coming up now and again. But I also wanted to offer some key perspectives. Now, especially for group 2, remember that the case study that I gave is, if you're looking at the case study, the board pack, the meeting pack, for management committee has already been given to your boss. So it's not like it's within your own capacity to change what is going to your boss, especially you saying, oh, I'm going to have to give only what was done. And remember the time limit. This is how many minutes to the next meeting and you just want to announce, you want to say what you're saying in very concise terms, you don't have the liberty of time to start going to either, just going around and having all the information, and you don't even have that direct either time or connection to the customer to say, dear customer, reaching out to the customer. It might not be realistic in this particular case study. So for this particular case study, we will start with the risks, and I'm going to share a practical example of how to look at it. Someone rightly asked the question, what were the risks given for the training? That's not the question for this particular case study. And for every case study that you're going to be facing in real life on your desk as an EA, you don't have to name it according to what this training has shown you. The major question you're asking yourself is, what has the ability to impair my executive's judgment, relationships, reputation, decision quality, every other thing, and what has the capacity to actually impair the reputation of the organization and even affect our organization as a whole? That's number one. Also in group one, somebody asked the question. The person asked if this was from the executive to everyone else or from the EA's perspective. And when I was showing you the slides earlier, I mentioned something. I'm going to put up my slides so that we can see this as I go along. I said, when you're looking at risks, you're not looking at risks only from one lens. Yes, you're looking primarily at your executive's lens because that is the person who you're there to protect. Okay, but I'm also saying that you're looking at this from an overarching view. You're looking at this generally to say, as I am here, whether you're working with the ED or you're working with anybody, risk is a bird's eye view. You need to see, what exactly are we dealing with here? Right? What exactly are we dealing with here? As long as it has the ability to impair your role, your executive, and the organization, it is a risk that you must spot as an EA. It doesn't necessarily have to be, does this affect me? Or is it? So when you're looking at risk, please take a bird's eye view. Whatever you are seeing, take note of it. Be a systems thinker. A systems thinker looks at things not just from the immediate outcome or consequences. They look deep into the, 1 week, 2 weeks, months, years from now. What exactly will be the risk here? And I'm giving you an example because as an EA, you need to think broadly beyond what people define your role to be. There are times I have seen people, for example, I will request for a document from a department, and because of the criticality of the department, they give me a paper, like a single paper. And I ask, I want to see this saved somewhere. I want to see this written somewhere. They're like, oh, we don't have this anywhere. I already know that one of the risks is information risk, where if you don't have that saved digitally, or across the organization, it might be hard to, take out that information when you need it. It happened in our, in the office of the MD as well. What happens is when you receive documents, I'm not sure if anybody has had this situation where you receive documents and you're stacking those documents and you're recording it. I had somebody who was working with me to take in documents, record it and give it to me. There are cases where people will come back to us 1 month later, 3 months, 6 months, even 1 year to say, there's a customer that said they sent a letter to the MD. They said, based on that letter, we did not act to do XYZ. Can you help us retrieve that memo? Can you help us retrieve that letter? And what we need to do plainly is go back to the record, take up that document, because that document and the receipt on it is actually what can save your bank in that minute. The first time I had that case, I had to review our entire process because before our tenure, before my boss's tenure, they had a very big book where they took in all the documents that were coming in. As the documents are coming in, they record, this is it, this is it. Then we send it to the people that can act on it. Not the MD does not have to act on every document. We send it to the people that should act on it. So if it's for Group S strategy, we write GH strategy, we write the name, the date, and then stamp it and send it to the department. That alone is record. But guess what was happening? Because there was no digital record or trail in the former tenure, so to some extent, we were having cases where people would say they sent us a document and we cannot really pull the proof of it because 1 month has passed, 1 year has passed. So what we did was we then decided to create a sheet digitally, where we enter who it was sent to, the date, who exactly was minuted to. So based on that, we also started sending emails, not just send physical documents. So based on that, even if you come 1 year later and say there was a document that the customer is disputing, they said they sent us a letter, help me pull that up. Going to our sheet and just going to Excel and control find and putting the person's name helps us know when it was sent and the department that we minuted it to say act on it. So I need to see how boldly you can start spotting things, and even before they crystallize, you're already acting in that regard. Now, coming to our case study for group 1, you see that there is information risk there. Because legal risk, yes, is a valid risk, but it's also a downstream risk, like Uche has rightly said, which means if you don't act, this will happen. A secondary risk is a risk that crystallizes if the primary risk is not taken care of, right? So if we don't act, if X does not happen, Y is going to happen. Okay, so number 1 is information risk, which means that the executive might act on an inaccurate information or incomplete report. So I want you to see risk primarily from what must we do first before the other one crystallizes, right? Number 2, like we said reputational risk, very true. A customer can escalate to regulators, they can escalate on social media, and when people see the bank, they're like, I'm not going to bank with these people. Didn't you hear that they did this into this customer's money and everything? So yes, reputational risk is key. In fact, reputational risk is so key that sometimes today, some customers don't even come to the bank again. They no longer write letters. They just go straight on Facebook, say the other day, they share screenshot of their app. This bank charged me this one. They charged me that one. Some of your corporate communications departments, they are well equipped to handle such risks. I mean, for risks that have already crystallized, where a customer runs to the internet before giving the bank the right of response. For your corporate comms, many of them, they are trained on handling such risks. They know how to respond. Your PR person knows how to respond. But I'm saying, even before it gets to that extent, on your own part, one of the ones that you must manage, information risk, your executives should have all the information they need to make the right call. Number 2, reputational risk. We have mentioned that for group 1, and it's the fact that a customer might escalate. Number 3, regulatory risk, right? A customer's escalation to the regulator is not just damaging the reputation. It might have regulatory risk where, because the regulators have things that you must not break, it might be termed to be an infraction, and then regulators will just slam a fine. So yes, there's regulatory risk. There's also decision quality risk, and I had to make a list of them. When you look at this matter, please do not just look at what we discussed only. Start to think to yourself, what is the issue here? What could go wrong? What could affect not just me? What could affect my executive? What could affect the bank as a whole? And don't try to put a fine language to it, first of all. Say it in plain terms. Speak normal English, like what could go wrong? That could help you start naming. Oh, this customer could escalate. Okay, that's reputational risk. Oh, this regulator can slam us and say this was not required, this was not acceptable. Oh, that's regulatory risk. Decision quality is the fact that management might make a decision based on false sense of closure. Remember, Babatunde was saying that, we will just go back and check if everything has been done. They have said everything has been done. They said that everything has been closed, but you know that you saw an email from a customer that said this is still open, and if you guys don't resolve it, I'm going to go to the public or go to the regulator. So decision quality risk is there, and this is the risk that people might make decision on half or partially correct information. There is stakeholder risk, which is what we were trying to name, and stakeholder risk is people might lose confidence. It starts from the customer to internal teams to senior leaders. They might lose confidence when they finally realize the senior leaders, you're talking to the board, you're talking to the MD. In some cases, this ED has reports the indirect reporting line to the MD. The MD, if they know that will happen, would start losing confidence in the quality of information that this person brings. And this is important for you if you were the assistant of this ED. Let me tell you, there was a time when a senior leader, I was sitting with a senior leader, and someone was coming into the office, and that senior leader told the second senior leader beside him that this guy is sabi forge, is sabi lie. Like, he was just giving a passing comment on the the management staff that was working in that, he can just give you things like he just used to wish-wash everybody in meetings. He was just giving you. And in my mind, I'm like, this person probably does not know. If that person has an EA, that's kind of things you need to spot ahead, because the things that your executive have said in places is how they perceive him or her. It's even how they determine whether they will go up or how they are passed on for opportunities. So decision quality risk is there, stakeholder risk is there, and then there's finally executive risk, which is, of course, the executive director might be embarrassed, exposed, etc. I heard personal risk from group one. And yes, this is, personal credibility risk for the EA, or executive risk for the executive, where the EA themselves might not be trusted. Oh, why didn't you spot it? Oh, didn't you see it? All of those things. So yes, all of these risks are things that we must take note of. But please know that the risks that you might have are not limited to these ones I gave you, because someone said I joined late. They're not limited to these risks I mentioned. They're not limited at all to this particular risk. These 4 categories are broad categories. And from these broad categories, you will start seeing downstream risk or secondary risk, like the legal risk that Uche mentioned, that can come from this if action is not taken. So this is one thing we must know. But we have seen it clearly, even with the case of that recent bank that you mentioned, where the customer went out to the public, that these things happen on a day-to-day. It's just for us to know how to manage them. I wasn't sure if for group 2, can you please confirm? The question for you was to mention what you will do and what you will say first. Is that correct? Please confirm before I address group 2. I wanted to be sure.
Yes.
Okay, it's what would you say first?
Yes.
Okay, I was hoping to hear what you would say first, but I didn't hear how you would raise it with I wanted to know the exact language you would use to raise it with your executive, because remember the case study is about the management committee meeting is tomorrow, and your boss has too many meetings and you wanted to call it out before that day so that everything is going to be resolved before that day. I wanted to hear how you will frame it. Did we discuss this, Babatunde? How you will frame it with your executive, knowing that they are busy and the committee meeting is tomorrow. Did we discuss how you exactly? I wanted you to do a practice as if we are the executives and you were talking to us. Did you discuss this in your group? If not, we can just go ahead.
We can go ahead, though not in that exact frame. So we just discussed what we're going to, how we're going to handle the issue and what we're going to tell our executive. Yeah.
Okay, so tell me what you were going to tell your executive.
No, like I said earlier on, where the plan is to tell the executive the possible risk that the bank is exposed to and what we have done to salvage the situation. But, you addressed it in a different limelight, saying that things are not as we discussed it in the group, that all those things are checked. So, validated what we, so.
Okay. Okay. All right. Okay, because of our time. Now, as a trusted partner that you are as an EA, you don't just raise concerns to prove that you're right. That's not the intention. It's not, oh, I want to prove that I'm right, or I want to prove the manager wrong. Sometimes you might like the manager or not. And it's not, oh, I caught something, I caught them red-handed. They were trying to sneak in complete information. No, that's not, because remember, this manager, the report owner is close to the ED. You also don't want to damage the relationship either between you and the ED or between the manager and the ED. Right? So you're not doing it because you want to show that you're right. You're also not doing it to say this team did not do their work well. So you're not saying this report is wrong, sir. Sir, this team did not do their work well. Oh, I don't think you should present this. That's not the word that you're using. If you use any of this, you might sound accusatory, you sound confrontational, and you sound disrespectful. So what you might say in this case when you're saying it is, number one, the 4-path risk flag, before I give you what it sounds like in a statement, you would have to ask for permission because you know that person is busy to understand, first of all, you know the right timing to come in and ask such question. But because the time frame is short, you ask permission. Oh, may I flag something? May I raise something with you? May I quickly draw your attention to something? That's number one. Number two, you state the observation clearly. Remember the framework I gave you here. If you look at this one, state the observation clearly. I noticed that the report says all high priority cases are resolved. Now, don't say the wrong way to say that. Some of us would have said it's this person sent the reports. Sir, can I tell you something? They sent the reports. This manager sent these reports yesterday. They sent these reports, and as I was reading it, the reports, there are some things, all of those ones, you flag it immediately. May I quickly draw your attention to something? And of course, don't use my exact language, like Babatunde noted. You know your boss well. You know how to, frame the things according to how he likes information to be received. And then you say the observation quickly. I noticed the report says all high priority cases are resolved. Then you name the possible risk. My concern is that there may be an unresolved case that could come up in the meeting due to an email that we received. And then you offer a respectful next step, like Babatunde mentioned. So you need to offer a next step. Don't just raise and then you leave it at that. What have you done and what will you do? Or what do you recommend that should be done? Maybe you have reached out to the manager to confirm. The respectful next step is, I have reached out to the manager in the meantime to confirm this, and I will give you the feedback, but I just wanted to note it as it may affect, this may come up in the meeting. So you're asking for permission, you're stating the observation, you're naming the possible risk clearly. This is why I'm raising it because of X, and then you are offering a respectful next step. That is what I expect that we do when we are taking such real life scenarios, right? And so here are the lessons from this case study. Raising a concern is not the same as challenging authority. Sometimes when we have the notion that this person will not take this well, it's because we have the notion of, oh, I'm challenging authority. No, you're not challenging authority. Raising a concern is not the same as challenging authority. Number two, the tone matters as much as the issue being raised. You cannot sound dismissive, disrespectful, or suspicious of either the executive or the person who is raising it. Don't assume anything until proven wrong. Right? Then you should also avoid blame and focus on the matter. Focus on the exposure, focus on accuracy, focus on protection. Because as an executive assistant, silence is also a risk. If you remain silent, that also creates a risk. So I'm just going to wrap this case study part by saying a trusted partner protects the executive from avoidable embarrassment, misinformation, and reputational exposure. So you're not just about the reputation or it going to the public. You are also protecting the executive's reputation so that when they go and say something that is not correct, they don't get the fallback for it, either in how they are perceived or otherwise, right? So I think this gives us a sense of what we have been discussing so far. How you see, you name, you raise, and then you hold. So hold here means that if the executive director still says, I don't care, just let me go and do my meeting, or they're like, they shun the person, or they say, go ahead and just send it like that. So let's just go ahead. Like they intentionally say, go ahead, I don't want it to be named. We can deal with it later. You can then hold, which means you hold it in your mind that this is still a possible risk to crystallize. But in the meantime, let's do this. And sometimes you can document it to the manager to say, here and here is what it is, just to hold that conversation until it's resolved. And there's a clear trail that, yes, you did what is required of you as an EA. So that's what I would say. If we have questions in that regard, we can also bring it up with this. Okay, so now we've seen that what we did from this practice is you saw the risk before it became visible, right? In some cases, let's take that bank that someone went out to the public to say, this bank, they took my money. In some cases, I don't mean every case. In some cases, that customer might have been sending correspondences to the executive's office. And somebody, because they feel it's not important, is probably waving it aside. So that's why you must keep your eyes open to such things. And in this practice as well, we named the risk. And then we also understood how to raise it with our executive. Remember, the goal is not to sound powerful. The goal is not for you to prove a point. The goal is for you to be useful, trusted, and very clear. That's why I gave you a framework that will make you present the information, cut out the weeds, and be very concise, especially if that's how your executive likes to receive information. Now, I'm going to be very this is a very sensitive matter, so I will just touch on it because it's important. The question here that this tries to answer is when your executive is the risk. So what I mean here is, what about when there is something that involves the executive themselves and you cannot You cannot report the executive to the executive or raise something about the executive to the executive. In governance, this is also important to know, just to know. The reason why you see that image is because your executive is part of a larger organization. And your role as a trusted partner does not only serve your principal, but also the institution. It serves even the banking sector as a whole, if I dare say that. Right? So, as a trusted partner, you're not just serving your principal, you're serving the entire institution. And I'm not saying go straight and start whistleblowing. Not everything requires whistleblowing, right? For some of them, you might disagree with your boss, but that you disagree doesn't mean that you witnessed a wrongdoing. So yes, if it's a pure wrongdoing that can lead to a public scandal, you need to ensure, and I'm sure the second session with the company secretariat person is going to address this a bit more. You need to understand the whistleblower channels for your organization, and then you need to seek advice. In seeking advice, please be politically intelligent. Please be politically intelligent. So you don't report the culprit to the culprits. Because there's some people that even when you seek advice from, they are extension of those people who have the main matter. So please be politically intelligent for your own good. Right? But I'm saying that this has to be addressed in this session because sometimes the risk is not even outside, the risk is inside. And if you have exhausted all the channels, you've exhausted engagement, you've exhausted, please seek advice, but be politically aware and politically intelligent in how you go about it. I'm just going to touch on AI as we wrap up, because this is a real risk today in the world of AI, in the age of AI. I would have loved to hear how we're using AI in our organization, our respective organizations, but because of time, maybe in the Q&A, if it's something that we could raise, because I'm also very passionate about AI fluency and equipping executive assistants with the skills they need to use AI, right? Because some of the things that we do, presentations like these, the other things, they could be made very, very quick with AI tools. But again, when we talk about executive risk in particular, there is a digital executive risk. With AI today, anybody can put somebody's face. I could create a video and it will be talking the way I'm talking now, and then it's not real. It's just false. It was engineered with an AI tool. All of those risks exist because of AI today. Not just that, the confidentiality risk that we mentioned earlier, AI makes it more difficult because today we have people who are using Claude or ChatGPT or Perplexity or Gemini or all of these tools, DeepSeek, depending on whichever one you use, or if you have an internal tool in your organization, all of those tools, we have people who are using them and they are carrying their whole organization's information, even a board report. Even reports that have not been released to the public, even financial information has not been released. They are carrying everything and they are uploading to Claude because they want to do quick, like, just give me the summary of this thing. All of those risks, they exist today. Now, I'm offering you like a framework to see how to think about it. Number one, when thinking about AI risk and digital risks as a whole, you need to think about what you put into the AI tool. Don't enter confidential information, customer files, executive correspondence. I know that some of us, we are using AI tool differently from the one we use with the organization. Please be careful of what you put into public AI tools, except if your organization has. So for example, I know when you use Perplexity Enterprise, for example, whatever you put onto a Perplexity Enterprise does not go out. It's not used to train other people's data, right? So please be aware of where you're putting up information. And then ensure that you redact sensitive details. What I mean by redacting is anonymize sensitive details. If you have a sheet of customer details, customer data, instead of putting, let's say, an Excel sheet that has many columns, instead of putting the customer's name, address, phone number, everything the way they appear, anonymize the list by removing the name, removing the address, remove the phone number, everything that can make the customer recognizable, remove it and anonymize the sheet. Just leave the other information that does not need all of those. And understand the information security standards for the organization as well as for the industry, right? Based on PCI DSS, for example, you cannot put a card number on any Excel sheet and upload that thing anywhere. So be very aware of those standards, right? When you are in doubt, please do not enter it. Then number 2 is to verify. Verify what AI or others create. I was talking to a person recently, and then she said, "Oh, it's AI that did it for me." When AI does something for you, you need to own it. Don't just create something, even things that you create yourself. Please know that judgment remains with you as a person. Don't create something. I don't know if any of us heard about the KPMG report. I don't know anybody in this room who heard about the KPMG report. I mean, KPMG International. They actually had a report and they put a full report sent to the public. We had almost about 5 companies. This is the kind of thing we're talking about today. Almost 5 companies had to go publicly and wrote to them to say, you guys gave the wrong information about our company. This is, and I'm saying it publicly. I would not have named the organization, but the news is public. It's on the news. Go and check it out. You know, people were calling them out. This thing you people have written about my organization is not real. So they came out to actually apologize and say it was AI, like it was hallucination. Because you need to know that Claude sounds very correct and accurate, but sometimes it's not. Hallucination by an AI tool means that it will make up some things as if it's correct, but it's not. It will just share with you and you would think it's correct, right? So that happened. And so the last one is own what you send out. I'm already saying Ms. Chidima, so I'm assuming that it's time up. Yeah. So own what you send out. And that's where we're going to wrap this up. I wanted to talk about this because it came up, but I'll just leave it for Q&A. If we have time for that Q&A, I just wanted to address the growth section, but let's leave it at that. And thankfully, I'm wrapping up with 6 questions that I want you to leave with. And I'm going to leave it here while I yield the floor back to, because I'm already seeing Ms. Chidima, which means it's time up. But I want to thank you for your time. And if you have any questions, if there's time for us to address that, I'm going to take that before I take my leave as well. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you again to Bidan for the opportunity, and thank you all. I hope to see you all managing risks better after today's session. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Tijani. We will take 3 questions, please. Does anyone have a question for Mrs. Tijani? Just before we, let her go. Thank you to Mr. Yodeji. Anybody with questions? Are we all clear? We've understood how to manage executive risk. Are we sure? Do we have questions on AI? Anything? Please, let's speak up now. We have an opportunity to converse directly with the facilitator. Okay. All right. If we don't have any questions for Mrs. Tijani, I'll just go ahead and, extend my appreciation to Mrs. Tijani. I believe that we have all learned one thing or the other. We've understood the framework for managing executive risk. She spoke about the form. Oh, Mr.
I see
Alex.
a hand raised, though.
All right. Please
I see a hand raised, Alex.
Yes, go ahead, please.
Okay. Can we hear me, please?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Yes, we can.
Thank you very much, Ma, for your submission. So I have a question that is it's risk taking anyway, but not based on this from this context exactly the one you gave. So I don't know if I can ask.
Sure, please go ahead.
Okay, so in a situation where your boss maybe was given some I don't want to be direct with I just want to okay, in a situation where you have your boss, then your boss superior, right, probably give your boss I would like to say like an assignment to do, right? So, and you as his assistant, you brought it up to him. Your superior, your boss's superior give the information to you probably. Then you submit to your boss, right? You are aware that your boss is already aware about this information, right? And then you've informed your boss superior that yes, you've passed the information to him, right? So let's say the day to get feedback from your boss has now it's now time for you to get feedback from your boss. Then your superior now called your boss, and your boss said he hasn't gotten this information, and you are sure you gave the information to your boss, and you've also responded to your boss's superior that okay, you've passed this information, right? So Meanwhile, you are meant to get back to your boss's superior based on the response. But because your boss have not given any response, so you can't go to your boss's superior to tell him or her, okay, this is what the solution is. Do you understand? So you are just idle, waiting for your boss's feedback on that. So when your boss's superior came in to be the one to ask himself or herself, then your own boss now said that he's not sure he has gotten this question, and he did it to the extent of probably calling you in his presence. So for confidentiality's sake, how do you manage this kind of scenario? Because I know you will not want to divulge unnecessary information and say you informed your boss, but it's your boss that did not do anything about it. And on the other way around, you will not also want to disappoint your boss's superior by saying, okay, yes, you did not pass the information. So because there's a place of trust in this scenario, which can affect your role or in short, your job that you own. So how do you manage this kind of situation?
Okay. This is also a situation that if you have an African parent, you probably are familiar with this. I mean, our culture is a bit interesting. So you don't want to put older people, whether by age or by position, you don't want to throw them under the bus, especially in front of people who they look up to or people who are important to them. Thank you for that question, Alex. So I would say two things. First, from the aspect of the information coming from your boss's superior. When that information comes from your boss's superior requesting for something, I said you need to be seeing, like you need to see things as they move along. Now, let me make it practical. Let's say my boss got an email and the person says, I'm expecting this feedback from you. Please share with me the number of people who are, they're expecting an information. If I have access to the email or I have access to a document or a message, like you said, that assistant knew about that to do. On behalf of my boss, I'm expected ordinarily to keep track of that thing, especially if it's critical and crucial. I'm supposed to keep track of some key information like what date the feedback is expected, number one. So let's say the boss's superior gave a deadline to say, I'm expecting it by Friday. I need to keep in my mind mentally Friday or keep it in a tool somewhere, whether a calendar or flag it if it's an email to say, we expected to respond by Friday, which means that by Thursday or by Wednesday, you should have all your facts, number one. Number two is, if your boss did not respond, you need to be thinking in terms of your boss. Is either, let me give examples of what could have happened. Is either your boss outrightly does not care about the person, let's be frank. Sometimes when you see bosses who don't have, like they're not really feeling that person. So many times when things come from that person, it's only respect that is keeping them from, just outrightly removing that person's I've seen it happen, when you don't have regard for that, they're like, just give him what he wants, I beg, no consideration for that could be what is happening. If that is not what is happening, then that means it's not intentional. That means the person maybe the executive is choked with work, and even the information required, he actually needs help with spooling it. So a boss will just tell you, I need this feedback. But the executive that's work is coming to knows that to get that feedback, they need to call like 3 other group heads. And so because of that work, that's where you as an EA needs to perceive very clearly. If it's not an issue of relationship or total dislike of the other person or disregard, then you need to do the work, the pre-work that is required by number one, saving the date of that commitment. I want this feedback on Friday. Put it on your calendar. Save it on their behalf so as not to devolve into reputational risk. Number two, help them do the pre-work. All the information on your own part, beyond just dumping it on the boss's table to say, this person wants this thing. Did you do the pre-work for them by calling the group head of this, group head of that to get all those information so that the decision is easier for your executive? So have you done that pre-work? Now, if you have done all of these things and the D-Day, the boss says, this guy did not tell me right in front of that boss's boss, and you had already said, I told him, oh, you cannot say, sir, please don't put me under the bus. I told you now. I told you now. You can't, it's not realistic for you to say that. What you will do is you have to intelligently own the entire blame. You cannot say, I told you, why are you doing like this now? You want to put me in front, you want to make me feel like, why are you doing like this now? It's not good for my reputation. No, you have to say, you have to intelligently own, which means you will put the feedback on yourself. Oh, I mentioned, but I think I might not have mentioned it clearly. I don't think I stated, the thing has to fall back somehow, then you will note it for next time on the things you will do to do better next time. But you also stylishly say, oh, I mentioned it, but I guess the issue was not mentioning what needs to be done or the date or something. You have to own a part of it, but you also have to show so that the other person doesn't see you as a liar. That you told me you mentioned to this person, oh, I mentioned, but I mentioned on WhatsApp. Oh, I mentioned, but I mentioned on a quick email. Maybe it was missed. Oh, I mentioned, but right. So you're balancing both, but you're owning the entire outcome at the end of the day. Especially if it's not a scandalous thing. Please, if it's a scandalous thing, please don't own what you cannot answer for. Right. So you need to be that's where political awareness and having that emotional intelligence comes into play. So that's what I would say. All right. But many times when that happens, please note for next time, do the pre-work for them. Ensure that you're owning the deliverable and owning the timeline for them as well. I hope this answers, Alex. I hope this answers your question.
Yes, partially, yes.
It does.
Though.
I mean, there's no question with as
So let me
sensitive
say
as it is. You can okay. Go ahead.
okay,
Go
so let
ahead.
me say it's, for instance, let's say it's like an approval, and your boss does not want to give this approval. Do you understand? You know that your boss does not want to give this approval. So of course you cannot convince your boss about it that sir, it will look as if maybe I didn't give you this information. So your boss is just like being quiet on it. So when the person now have to come in person to ask for this thing, so of course your boss will not also want to tell him, I choose not to give you the approval. So he now said, like, okay, maybe I've not seen this whatsoever before, or maybe then he now calls you into question. You are aware that your boss intentionally did not want to approve. Do you understand? So that's what I'm asking. Because now it would look as if from your boss's side, you will not be painting yourself well, and then which can also affect your appraisal or the way you are being perceived. Do you understand? Also, from your own boss directly, it can also affect your own your appraisal as well. So that's the angle I'm coming from.
Okay, I'll just say this finally because we're out of time now, right? I'll say this finally. Of course, you cannot, when it comes to things that are nuanced, right? This is a very nuanced situation. You cannot have a right, oh, this answer is going to cover everything, right? But what I would say is, your boss doesn't want to do it. When you own partially the framework I said, oh, I said this via WhatsApp, so maybe it might have been missed. I said this via email, this might have been missed. What you then need to do is, as long as that boss has come in physical to say, this is what I want, after then, the thing is no longer on you. After that day that the person has come to say, I didn't get the feedback, the thing is no longer on you. What you can now do after the meeting is ask your boss, is there any information you want me to help you to spool to make it easier to respond to this person? Or do you want me, you can ask for how can I help you essentially to make this thing easier, right? But the entire decision and deliverable at the end of the day will now be resting solely on your boss. I see a hand up as well, Mr. Adewoye. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I've not been introduced here, but it's an interesting topic. I'm a company secretary, and I go through this on almost a daily basis. I understand the part of owning, but some owning can send you out of a job and a career. Really, don't forget that you don't have the leverage of the executive, so it's not difficult to just check you out of the system. The question I will ask you from inception is, how did you communicate that matter to your superior? A lot of us are fond of saying, MD called you, sir, and he said you should do this, and that's it. You didn't say anything because this gentleman is very busy. He may not have even heard you. He will just say, okay, because he wants you out of his office. Learn to document things. You can go afterwards, like an hour later, to say, further to our discussion earlier, sir. MD requested for 1, 2, 3, 4. He wants the feedback by so and so, sir. I have called the group head of this, the group head of that for this information, and they are in copy of this mail. Now, you are extending that map. It's not only you and the supervisor now. You are extending the map to 3 or 4 other group heads. It's make it impossible for your boss to say you did not tell me, because it's so obvious for him to say I didn't know. Now there are people that will tell you that you think it's only your mail I read. Why do you think? Because that is the extreme. There are instances where they will say, so you think it's only your mail I read. How do you think I will remember that? Now, Microsoft allows you to flag emails. So use your, you can, if the deadline is Friday, next Friday, for example, flag it on Microsoft on Tuesday, flag it on Thursday. So you don't even have to do it. Microsoft will bring it back to you. This is outstanding. And then you send another mail. Oh, just a gentle reminder, sir. MD is expecting so and so by, and then when you go in, and then you can mention it. Now, when I'm speaking to participants, there is a daily briefing that each EA or PA must do. We don't do it. We only see it in movies. When in the morning, when your boss comes, after you are settled down for like 5 or 10 minutes, go in with a notebook. Good morning, sir. Today you have this 1, 2, 3, 4. Is there anything you want to change? Oh, don't forget, MD is expecting so and so tomorrow. It's under 5 minutes, but you've taken him through his day. Now, if you have done all that, even conscience not allowing you to tell MD that you didn't tell him. But if he does, like Mrs. Tijani said, you own it. Oh, it must have been lost in the mail, sir. I actually sent a mail to you on that, but it must have been lost. I take responsibility for it. I'll go back to the mail and I will check it out. Oh, MD, I'm very sorry, sir. He knows he's lying. He knows you have covered the shame. MD already knows that that executive is lying. All of them know he's lying, but they will move on. But the next time, MD won't put the blame on you because he knows you have done your job. And so these are things that we must learn. A lot of us kowtow to executives, and it's okay because they can destroy careers. But then you need to protect yourself from inception. Begin with the end in mind, and that's very, very important. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. So I assume, that wraps it up, but again, let me come back to all of these things. Have situational awareness, because sometimes even the briefing, that Mr. Dewi suggested, some people, they don't, you cannot, it's not practical for them to be briefed every day. So just have situational awareness and know how to handle these things. And I like how he called out the fact that not every some owning can, unown you from the organization. So you have to also understand which one is the impact and the risk and what you're dealing with for you to be able to adjust accordingly. So with that, I think that it's a good way to wrap this up and then yield the floor to Ms. Chidima and then the next facilitator, Mr. Dewoye. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Tijani. Please don't leave yet. Please don't leave yet. Please.
Okay.
If we could, please, can we unmute and give Mrs. Tijani a very warm applause, please? Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back from the break. Our next facilitator is Mr. Lausa Adewuyi. He's the company secretary of Keystone Bank Limited and a highly experienced legal and governance professional with over 2 decades of distinguished experience in banking, corporate governance, legal advisory, and board leadership within the Nigerian financial service sector. He is widely respected for his expertise in legal structuring, regulatory compliance, enterprise risk management, and board advisory. And over the years, he has built a strong reputation for strong and strategic leadership and an unwavering commitment to governance best practices. He is well positioned to deliver valuable insights and practical learning experiences to participants of the PAE and TA training program. Please welcome Mr. Lausa Adewuyi.
Although we understood the job description, we didn't understand the job expectancy from our supervisors. Because the job they give you is one, what they expect you to do with that job is another thing. Now, most times the expectation and the description of your job are cross purposes. And I've seen that happen over and over again. So most people have no problem defining or explaining their role. However, they miss the alignment between that role and the goals of the business. A lot of the people are referring to what they do day to day. They were not looking at the outcome, the reason why they were put on that role in the first place. So most answers reflected a desire to satisfy the principal. And that's understandable because the principal praises you, benefits, bonus, career progression, and all that. But we need to understand that more than a principal, our role is to achieve the strategic goals of the company. And that's very important, you know. Just pandering to the whims and caprices of your supervisor will not give you motivation every time until you begin to aspire and target towards the strategic goals of the company. Consistency, dedication, commitment, and all those happen when you are focused on something bigger than what is considered in your immediate environment. The interview of a cleaner in NASA is of notorious application everywhere. You've had this several times where a cleaner was asked what he was doing, and he said, "We are trying to put somebody on the moon." Now, how does cleaning a toilet, okay, equate to putting somebody on the moon? So it's that mindset that I'm making this office habitable so that somebody can get to the moon. They don't have to come here and then begin to wash the closet themselves, clean this. So let them just come in, under 2 minutes, go out, because we are putting somebody on the moon. And that was his motivation. Every day he resumes in the office, he's putting somebody on the moon. That's a larger cause rather than just keeping the toilet clean. Now, the second question relates to the nature of the role. Is it strategic or clerical? A lot of people said it's strategic, but in defining what it means, they went clerical. Don't get me wrong. If you look at the job description of PA, especially, it is mostly administrative. It is mostly clerical. But if you align with that cleaner in NASA, you will move from the routine jobs that you do to how does this affect the company or the organization achieving its goals and strategic goals and aims. Now, by the time you connect that your role to how it affects the strategic goals of the company and how the role of the supervisor impacts how the company achieves its aims, then you have a different thing altogether. Now, I asked Chidima to ask us to watch The Devil Wears Prada. I don't know how many of us have seen that film, or how many of us have seen Coming to America. Eddie Murphy as Akeem in Coming to America, because he fell in love with the boss's daughter. He went to the girl and said, "When you think of rubbish, think of Akeem. When you think of litter, think of Akeem." Now, in toasting a babe, for God's sake, how do I equate myself to rubbish? So when this girl is thinking about trash, that's where my own name should come up. But it's the nature of his role. He wanted to make it such that anything, you can't do this without me. If you want this place to be presentable, to be accommodating to people, think about that. And that's where we understand that our role is beyond clerical. In submitting a letter that came in to the MD or to the ED or to the group head, in making sure that the group answers that letter, what are you doing? Is it clerical? Or are you making sure that the company does not fall short of its regulatory expectations or whatever it is? So let's look beyond what we do on a table day to day. What is the import and effect and implication of what we are doing? And so that's important. So I'll be asking, can you actually anticipate needs? Every instruction that is given to you that can be repeated has become a policy on your table. That's the way I see it. So if you're a PA, for example, MD's wife's birthday is also and so date. And then the MD says, "Please, can you get a card for me for the 10th?" And then you go and get that card. You have to note it in your diary. Annually, get a card or suggest a card for Madam 4 or 5 days to the day of that event. MD must never remind you again. You are the one that will remind MD that, MD, Friday is Madam's birthday. Are we getting a card for her? Or have we bought a card? Are we getting a cake? And you will just discover that beyond what we call, we don't have authority to do things, they will start willing things to you. They will start arrogating things to you. They will start expecting more because you have shown that you can do more. So nature of our role is extremely important, and it depends on how we carry ourselves. One of my bosses told me a long time ago that you must magnify your table. However small the table they give you, your duty is to magnify that table. The table must be bigger than it seems because of the way you are handling it. And it all comes down or boils down to how we handle ourselves on that table. Now, a lot of people mentioned the constraint on the job, and a lot of people highlighted lack of knowledge of overall picture, completing urgent tasks, coordinating several dependencies, influence without authority, And then all these are solid reasons. Even the people that you call group heads, they don't have the overall picture most times. We think they do. It's because of the way they carry themselves that you think they know everything about the organization. They don't. I've been company secretary for many years. There are things I know that the MD does not even know. Because after the MD has had a meeting with directors, some directors may reach out to you and give you perspective that they won't give at the board meeting. And that perspective they will give you, they expect you to reason along with them and speak on that perspective with the MD. Now, don't forget, they've not spoken to the MD about it, and they are telling company secretary. Is company secretary a magician? How does MD, who is closer to the MD? Is it the director or you? But as far as they are concerned, you are the bridge. And so because you are the bridge, you are the one that must find a way to convey it to MD, whether it's palatable or not. Okay, so at times, they give you a position that they don't even want the MD to hear. They just say, what is your view about this? And then that's where you have to be careful, because some of them will even say, I spoke to the company secretary, this is what he said, and MD does not know. So this is where you must balance and stay in between. Okay, but power is never given to anybody. Power is always snatched. You keep doing things, expanding your influence, nobody will expand it for you. You are the one that will be expanding that influence. If there's lack of knowledge, ask in a very polite way by questions. And so, man, we are going to do this. Do you need this? So you are expanding that information. Okay. If there are several dependents, that's where you need to now build your network and your relationships. We are going to get there in the course of this class, where we'll be discussing how we relate to people and relationships. You are EA or PA. You do not have a choice but to build relationships. If you do not, your career is entirely at risk. Because whether you like it or not, you sit across the breadth of the organization. Your supervisor or your principal is going to require things that will make you check almost everywhere. Now, if you now go and throw yourself around and come from the EA's office with the authority of the ED, and then begin to start on people's heads, maybe they will be looking at you until you enter the dungeon. But you must be deliberately humble, because really, I'm a Christian, and sorry, there's no way I always talk without referring to the Bible. The ass that Jesus Christ rode into Jerusalem, and people were stretching their clothes in front, must have thought is very, very important. He will just find out on his own journey that nobody reckoned with him. And that is the way of a company secretary, the way of an EA, the way of a PA. The honor you enjoy, the respect that you enjoy. When you enter corporate service, everybody is jumping up and down. It's not because they are afraid of you, they are afraid of the MD. And so you need to understand that these constraints that you have, your relationship can help, because behind that relationship is the stature of the MD, of the ED. They know that if it goes wrong, something can happen, but you are coming with a different pace, and so you get whatever you want. Now, on career progression, most people are lost. A lot of people talked about going to admin. A lot of people talked about going to maybe some people about going to strategy, but most people didn't really understand where to go from here. And that is sad, because what this does for you is to open you up to executive mindset, executive thoughts, mindsets, and then it should broaden your mind on what you can do in career. I do not expect that you will leave this kind of role and think small, because you've seen how people expand things, how they build structures and systems. And then you should be looking at a career in strategy, looking at a career in corporate services, looking at a career in corporate communications. They are only looking at a career even risk, credit, marketing. And so when people say just after leaving this kind of role, just going to admin, I wonder, because you need to open up your mind, because the opportunity you have, you learn, things go to your table that ordinarily you won't have access to. You should open up your mind on what is possible. And then a lot of us will have MBA even by now. So if you want to leave EA after like 4 or 5 years or 6 years and still go to a place where you sit on the table again, I wonder, what is that MBA for? A lot of us are extremely qualified on that table, MSc, MBA. Some of us have 2 degrees. Some already are looking at PhD. So I'm asking, why can't we just open our minds? Okay, because our minds should not close. So that career progression is what a lot of people need to look at. And then the risk that we face. Some people even said no risk. And I'm wondering, you sit in an executive's office and there is no risk. That is one of the riskiest places you can sit in an organization. And I'm sure we'll get there in the course of the class. We're going to be talking about risk. And then honor. Power is never served a la carte. Nobody will give you that power. Honor is a combination of 2 or 3 things. And it basically boils down to reputation. Now, your competence and your character, if you add it together, it will bring you to a reputation. That reputation is what drives honor. Now, if your reputation is excellent, honor follows it. If your reputation is horrible, honor runs away from it. Don't forget, I said competence and character. So if honor is not flowing towards us, we need to check these 2 things. Now, don't get me wrong, there are some environments where no matter how competent you are, no matter your attitude and all that, they just rubbish people. So I've always told people, it's not every environment is not your habitat. There are some you need to get out of, and that's the truth. There are some you need to get out of. So don't say I'll be improving. There are some just leave. There are some you need to leave. And when you are in that kind of environment, just be preparing how you will take off. That's the truth. But for honor, they don't give up people honor on their table. People earn it. And the way you earn honor is your character and your competence, which leads to reputation, and reputation drives up your honor or reduces it. Now, those are the 6 questions. I don't know if anybody wants to add anything or you have a comment, and then we can go to the class proper. I will stop here. I can't see any.
Yeah, is there anybody that has any question? Maybe you did not understand a part of the pre-assessment or pre-workshop assessment questions. If you have, you can raise it now so that the facilitator can address them. Otherwise, we can proceed.
I've made a mistake. You can clarify it. Nobody is talking now. Am I making sense?
Achiuko said, well understood, sir. So,
okay.
Yes, he's confirmed
But
that.
My neighbor, so he knows that he has to understand me because he's not looking for a problem on Monday. That's why. Okay. If there are no questions or comments, then I can. Am I able to share my screen, Chidima?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You can just request and I'll allow you.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, if you can see my screen, let me know.
Yes, sir, we can.
Great. So I started by trying to define some of the terms. So because our title is Assistant as a Governance Gatekeeper, I tried to pick the keywords there and try to define them so that we probably understand ourselves better and the perspective I'm looking at it. So the subject here is the executive. All of us are assisting the executive somewhat. And so who is this executive? And I try to bolden some areas I believe are very, very important. Because an executive is a very high-ranking corporate role and focus on strategic decision-making. Okay, which means these are the people that control the company. And these are the ultimate powers of the company. These are the people that the board of directors and the shareholders have handed over the company to, whether it's a group executive, executive director, whoever. They're high up in a way that whatever decision they make affects the overall outcome of the company. So it's a high leadership, high-level leadership, and then affects the overall performance of the organization in their conduct, their behavior, decisions, and all that. So these are people that oversee all other people report to them, they oversee careers. So it's a broadly important, very important role. Okay, because whatever they do now determines whether the company will succeed or fail. So sustainability is embedded in whatever they are doing. So this is a very, very important role, extremely, extremely important. They are high stakes. They are managing multifaceted issues across diverse stakeholder groups. As a company secretary, I will tell you there are various stakeholders in a company, sometimes with very diverse and conflicting expectations and conflicting expectations. Some people want dividend by all means. Some people are saying, let's retain that money somewhat because we want to make the company sustainable. Some people are asking for their salary. Vendors are asking for payment. So diverse interest groups, and you have to manage all these things. So I try to define the executive here, and then from there, I will go to defining the subject matter of today. That is the assistant. The assistant. Now, the assistant is a person who assists or gives aid and support. Don't forget, I said earlier that looking at the job description, it seems clerical, but that is not the expectation for that role. The expectation and the job description are at variance. Now, I don't know if that is deliberate. It can't be, but it is the way it is. When you're looking for an assistant, that is what you put on paper. But really, what you are looking for is totally different from what you put on paper. And we'll get there. So what does an assistant do? Is to provide administrative, clerical, and practical support to an employer. I picked this from Google. So it's a general definition I got. So I think when I was reading somebody, I think it was in Mr. Emmanuel Ojo's pre-course questions. He said somebody told him that his work is to make his life easier. And that is true. The work of an assistant is to make my life easier, to make my role easier. And if that is the case, the question you should be asking yourself is that in my corner, can my principal say my work makes their life easier? My work makes their life easier. Do they stress less because of what I do? Or do I cause them stress because of what I do? And that's an important question that all of us must self-reflect on. Do we actually make their lives easier? And then the last keyword there is gatekeeper. And I'll be coming there in the course of this training frequently. Now, who is a gatekeeper? Someone who controls access to resources. You can determine how it's going to flow. You can block it. You can open it up. Okay, whether resources in terms of opportunities or information, they decide who gets in and who is kept out, essentially filtering what is allowed to pass through to a person or organization. You just enter and say, madam is busy. And because madam is behind the wall and the door, you don't even know whether she's playing Ludo. But this person just says madam is busy. And then you can't access. So the smart people would have called madam before leaving their office on GSM to say, madam, say come. When you come in, just say, no, I call madam, she's expecting me. And at that point, the gatekeeper cannot do anything again. But there are the people that block access, okay? And it's a sense of importance. Now, you can imagine you are coming as a GM, SN, and then you come in and they say, MD is busy. And then the SM and the GM is just perambulating in one place. MD is busy, MD is busy. You can't do anything about it. The gatekeeper has spoken. Okay? So these are people that are responsible for controlling access. In terms of business, they actually control resources. Okay? Access to third parties, people that make decisions, they are the ones that block it. They are the ones that block it. So they can be a stumbling block or valuable to you because they control and help you maximize your time for strategic thinking and decisions. Or they can restrain you from access that is required to even better the organization. Okay? And so it's important that we have the orientation that is business-minded and business enabling when we are acting as gatekeepers. Now, I said the job description and the expectation for an executive assistant or personal assistant, they are at variance. What people expect you to do and what you do are two different things. Now, if there's a long list here, and so I will pick the ones I can pick because of my time. And please, Chidima, when I have like 10, 15 minutes more, maybe just call a bell or something, I will know that, or just tell me that I just have 15 minutes more so that I don't forget myself.
All right, sir.
Okay. So when you are an executive assistant or personal assistant, what is expected of you? I joined towards the end of Mrs. Tijani's presentation, and I thought to myself that maybe I should just listen and go, because the little I had, she practically covered a lot of things I thought I would say. So I'm going to avoid some of the things that I thought she would have covered. Now, exceptional organizational skills, scheduling and creating systems. This is extremely important, because time is something that you can never have enough of. And at times we don't even know we can't have enough of it. And it's something we can't control. I joined this meeting at 12:20. I cannot reclaim that time. Okay, only God can help you to redeem time. Okay, by multiplying your speed. But in terms of human, once that time has gone, it has gone. So you need to be able to schedule what is important within the time that you have. As an executive assistant, this is one of your most potent skills. Being able to lock things in place, okay, put deadlines on them, and execute them is important. Now, it's extremely important, and most times not within your control, but you are still responsible for it. Because you cannot go and tell MD when he's talking that, MD, what you have said is enough. You have a meeting by 10. Please, can you ask this person to go out? Because you have a meeting by 11. But meanwhile, if it doesn't meet that meeting, you are still at fault. So, exceptional organizational skill. That's why I said a briefing is important, but I quite agree with Mrs. Tijani, not everybody will be open to a briefing. But situational awareness, who is my boss? What is it like? How can I get this briefing? Do I send a WhatsApp chat around 10 or 11 every day, every PM every day, to say, good evening, madam. Tomorrow you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You have to meet so and so by 10. If you come in by 9, you have so and so. However, this Mr. A or Mr. B, when he comes to your office, spends 1 hour. Instead of starting with Mr. B, can we take Mr. B to 4 p.m.? Okay, you are planning your day. You may say they won't like it, but you will just discover that they are looking for help every time because they are choked. And so one of your most potent skills as EA is being able to schedule and organize your principal. Is extremely important. Now, yes, you will guide their calendar. That is your job, to create that calendar. Once you have created that calendar, your own is to give it to them. But the expectation is somebody that will guide through that calendar, but that is not your job description. Your job description is to create the calendar, but the expectation is to guide that calendar, but nobody will tell you that one. Until you begin to do it and you begin to see the reaction of your principal to what you are doing, because you now make them more efficient. You know the environment, you know people that just come and discuss about how Tinubu is winning Nigeria. You know people that will come and talk about the town union. Those kind of people, put them towards 5 or 6 when everybody is ready to gist. Not 9 a.m. in the morning when things that are urgent are on Madam's table. So we need to understand our environment and begin to map it out appropriately. Now, strong communication skills, clarity and brevity. When I read what some people send to me at times, 2, 3 pages of Bangladesh, and I'm actually looking for the punchline, and I don't get that punchline until the last paragraph of page 3, and I'm asked, why does this person waste my time for the first 2 pages? Because you have a lot of things to go through every day. You're just looking for what will make your life easy. A friend of mine worked with Jimovia when he was MD of Zenith Bank many years ago. He said he's one of the most impatient people that he has ever met. But if you understand how he reasons, then you have his attention. So I asked him what he did. He said it's very simple. They called him Jim. He will enter and say, Jim, good morning. Say good morning without looking up. I have 3 things for you. Once he has 3 things, he will look up. Number 1, number 2, number 3. But number 1 is more important. Now, you can end up spending 30 to 40 minutes with Jim. In his head, you only have 3 things. But the questions that he is asking can extend that 10-minute meeting to 30-minute meeting, but you still have 3 things. But if you enter and say, good morning, Jim, I have some matters for you to look at. You say, please, can you come back later in the day because I have so. But if you say, Jim, I have 2 things for you. Okay, you say, okay, it's just 2. It's just 2. So you need to be able to understand who your principal is and communicate in a way that you are audible, you are heard, you are attended to. It's important. But if you work with somebody for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months and you don't even understand how they communicate and what is best, then it's on you. It's on you. Now, discretion and trustworthiness is very important. Discretion because it's not how you interpret matters and how you know the limits of your power, how you guardrail the things that is available in front of you, and the extent to which they can trust you with that sensible information. Now, a lot of us have friends in the system that we gist with. And those friends, whether you like it or not, or you believe it or not, the reason they are friends is so that they can get information directly. They don't like you for anything. The reason they laugh with you and come and check up with you and buy donut and go and drop biscuit on your table, even before you come, and come on weekend to go and watch so and so football with them at a bar, it's because of information, proximity. That's the reason. If they transfer you from that table tomorrow morning, they will block your number. You will call them and you won't get through. They don't need you for anything. It's just so. We need to understand that the information that is available to us, what we are seeing on our tables that even James are not seeing, there is trust attached to it. Trust attached to it. Now, technical proficiency. The list that we expect from you now is expertise in Microsoft Word and all those things. Jamie mentioned AI. That's another area where you can help. But these days, where people just go on ChatGPT, put the task you're giving them on it, you just download and send it to your table. It's getting more and more horrible every day. Microwave everywhere, microwave solutions everywhere. It's God that can help us. Time management and prioritization, I think I've mentioned that one. Problem solving skills, the questions on why. Somebody told me a long time ago, by the time you ask 4 whys, you should be getting to an answer. Why did this happen? Why did that thing happen? Why did that thing allow it to happen? By the time you ask 5 why questions, you should be getting to where you are going. Problem solving skills, not problem delivering skills. You bring something to me to look at. You say, this is the problem we have. And I'm looking at the problem. I'm still confused. But you say, sir, but I've thought about it. These are the possible solutions. Then you have my attention. And this is my recommendation. Okay? Then it's a different conversation. Because you have thought about it, you are looking at possible ways. I may not agree with you, but that agitates my mind. Okay? I make you to start to think also that, okay, this is not as bad as it seems. Problem-solving skills. When they drop things on your table, by the time you get to case study, do you just throw your hands up and say, well, madam will look at it, or guy will look at it, or you even deliberate on it and say, come on, how did this thing happen? What caused it? What is the solution? Okay. Then attention to details. You do some letters and you want to slap somebody. You want to slap somebody. You ask somebody to do a presentation for you, and the least I expect is that just do autocorrect on the system. Let the system do autocorrect. That is the least, because the system will underline things. But people will ignore all that one and still bring it to your table. And you begin to write, this person even go to university at all. It's politeness that will not ask you to make you to ask some people that did you go to school. Some guys don't have filters, they will say, and you say you are a graduate. That's the reason why they are saying that. Attention to details. We have done something like 3, 4, 5 times. I've corrected that thing like 3, 4, 5 times. You bring it the 6th time. The correction I made it the 4th time is still in that 6th time. I'm asking myself whether this person should be my staff. Really. Then, being proactive and initiative. Now, this is where a lot of people in the pre-assessment questions had concerns because they didn't have the overall picture. They don't have the authority of the principal to act. They don't even know the limits of that authority. So there's concern. There's concern. Yet, somebody is expecting that this thing will be done without giving you that authority. But the authority, whether we like it or not, is an informal authority, is implied. Because go and do it. They didn't say, go and do this or that and come back. Let's go and do it. The extent of that authority is the question. It's not that it's whether it is there or not. It is always there, but it's that extent that we are looking at. Now, proactivity and initiative. The reason that I said Chidima should ask you to watch The Devil Wears Prada, and even after this, there's a very old film. There's a part 2 out now, but it's the part 1 I'm talking about. It'll probably be on YouTube. But it's a very old film and it's a classic. By the time this assistant that they gave this terrible man that they called the devil finished with her, she was totally dependent on this person. This person does not give praise. This person does not acknowledge that you are even a human being. Horrible, horrible personality. But this person worked with her. In fact, the person that was there before this lady was expecting this person to be thrown out in a day or two. And without any sense of fashion, any knowledge about fashion, in a short while, this person turned around this table and the respect came, the honor came. Now, proactivity is how are you making yourself irreplaceable? That's continuous learning. But how is it that when you work with somebody and you don't come to work one day and this person is scattered, and the same boss works with another person and says, thank God, this person did not even come today. Okay? It's the initiative they carry, the proactivity, being able to anticipate solutions and challenges before they even come. Solutions and challenges before they come. Okay? You have a boss that makes a report to the board every quarter. And then you also wait with her till it's 2 weeks to board meeting before you start running up and down. You know that these reportees will send reports to her like every quarter. Why are you waiting for her to tell you that, please, can you send a mail to group person and so? So what is your job? It's already on your calendar. Are you waiting for her to prompt you, or you are going to prompt her or prompt those people? How are you making the life of that person easier? I mentioned Madam's birthday because whether it's not official, but it's still official. Because those are things that make your supervisor or your principal whole. You have to look out for those things and you have to anticipate them before they happen. It's anticipating before they happen that makes you a valuable staff. I had a colleague many years ago. He's a company secretary and chief legal officer of a very large group. Now, this gentleman, well, I think I was a deputy manager. He was just an ET or EA. And then I would give him a task, a legal opinion. And the gentleman will go and write the legal opinion, okay? Compare what happens in the north to the south to the southwest, how the judges are ruled on those things, and give it to me. And then he won't stop there. He will now go to Ghana. He will tell me what they've done in Ghana. He will go to Malaysia because Central Bank of Nigeria mirrors Malaysia and a lot of things that the Central Bank does. He will go to Malaysia, look for authorities on what has happened on that matter. He will now go to England and look for authorities. I will now give everything to me. Now, when I'm appraising that gentleman, what do you think I'm appraising? What do you think I'm writing there? Because he has not only given me what the position of law is in Nigeria and practice, he has given me things to ponder about to actually improve my presentation and my system internally. So I can say, although this is not the law, this is best practice, and I can go to meetings and go and shine at meetings. Now, the boss will reward people that make them shine. People that shine them will be tolerated or disciplined. Now, when they call me for any role, and I'm not, I can't do that, and I think it's an interesting role, the first name that drops in my mind is that gentleman's name. Till tomorrow morning, the first name that drops in my mind is that gentleman's name, because he has proven to me that he can handle it. Beyond my expectations, beyond what I gave to him. Proactivity and initiative are extremely important. I never told him to go and check Ghana or Malaysia. He took that initiative on his own, that let me give my boss the overall picture of everything, and then he was rewarded. Almost every year I was promoting this gentleman. When they asked me to determine bonus, his own was almost one of the largest, and it was ET or EA, because it now became an extension of me. It was making my job easy. I didn't have to stress too much to get what. I can actually give you the job and go home and sleep because I know it to be done properly. Proactivity and initiative as an executive assistant, can your supervisor rest and believe that you will handle it? Emotional intelligence, we'll get to that later, but this is extremely important. Interpersonal skills, continuous learning and improvement. There is one question I will ask you on this, and probably give me an answer, or maybe later on. How are you making yourself irreplaceable on your job, such that when your supervisor thinks about whether you want to go, their heart will cut to say, you can't go. How are you making yourself irreplaceable on your job? Like I said, a lot of us are highly qualified for what we do. The MBA that we have, the MSc that we have, the ICANN qualification that we have, the ICSAN qualification that we have, stockbroking that we have, how is it reflecting on the job that we do? Don't forget, for you to get promotion, you are working for the job that you expect, not that the job you are doing. Promotion is for the role that, when they say they are promoting you, they promote you after you have shown that you can handle the next role, not for doing your job well. I hope you know. Your promotion is for the next role because you already leapfrog the role that you are in, and then you're already working at a level higher than your level. That's when promotion comes in. Nobody promotes you for doing your work well. They promote you for exceeding your work and expectation. That we need to understand. So question to you is, how are you making yourself irreplaceable on your table? And those are the expectations of executive assistant. Now, what is traditional? I see a lot of this every day when you enter the outer office of an executive, and the staff is behaving as if the executive is the one you are talking to. And I mean, I've been around for a while, so I just smile and I play along, okay? Because I know that when they discuss your matter at Expo, I will be there, and my opinion will be sought on how you behave. And that opinion, if valued, can cause one or two things to happen. Elevation of self to the status of the executive, and that's the analogy I gave on Jesus Christ and the donkey that rode into Jerusalem. Don't forget yourself to think that you are the executive. You are not. In traditional practice, this is what happens. People forget that they are the secretary or EA and begin to talk to people as if it's the executive talking to them, until they now discover one day that they're not the executive. Oh, by that time, it's too late. And then the executive resigns or retires or gets another appointment, and you're supposed to now go to another department. Everybody say they don't want you. They say, we are sorry, we can't work with this person. You can't work with this person. And then you are forced to follow the executive if they want to, or they say redundancy. Okay. Traditional practice is to be a block wall, whether important or not, just Oga is not available. Oga is not. No matter the urgency, no matter the importance of the matter they brought, Oga is not available. You are the gatekeeper, and everybody must respect that. Meanwhile, people that have come to gist with Oga, they will just go and say, you say Oga is expecting you, the person will enter. The person that came with very important job will be asked to sit down because Oga is not available right now. You control the access. You are the all important thing. Okay? Best thing after sliced bread. Everybody must bow down when they see you. You are a block wall. And then we believe that is purely administrative. I think I've addressed that. Now, in 21st century, I need to pick one or two of this. Deep understanding of the role, I think this is important, and that's what I addressed by saying, look at the strategic aim of the organization. We want to be the best retail bank in Nigeria. That's the strategy. How is my work enabling that strategy? We want to be the biggest bank by deposits in Nigeria. CASA, current account and savings account in Nigeria. How is my action in this office enabling it? Is it that when they come for approval for a concession, I keep them waiting because madam is busy? Or I take it to madam and say, madam, this is important and they want to send you something. Madam is actually busy, but for EA, madam will look up to say, okay, madam, this is actually important. It's a CASA concession and they need to get it now before the end of the day. Or you ask them to just wait and the end of the day goes and then customer takes the money to somewhere else. You need to understand what your role is. Now, I will emphasize the second point more. The business of the organization and how the role of the executive impacts the business. What your principal does, how does it impact the overall business of the organization? If your principal succeed, how does it affect the overall business? If your principal fails, how does it affect it? Now, understanding this impact will inform how you behave. It will inform how you behave. Okay, because if you understand that if you drop a ball here, now if you have a boss that is head of risk, for example, and you know they have deadlines, even if your guy has gone with his wife to a party before they brought that document, and you understand that the following morning there will be a sanction, you know your guy will pick your call, you will reach him. But the way we will behave is that Oga has closed, and after he has closed, he doesn't receive any calls. It's not your fault in the real sense because the boss is at 6:30 or 7 o'clock. However, if the ED risk or the ED or the CRO knows that this is outstanding, they will do it. So why do not help them to enable that thing to be done? It comes from understanding the business of the organization, what we are all doing, and how my Oga's role fits into that bubble. Okay? What is my Oga's role in this large maze? If I remove what my Oga is doing, does it crumble or does it stand? How does it help it? It's very, very important. Now, emotional intelligence also, in fact, if you are EA, I'm a company secretary and I understand this thing. If you don't have emotional intelligence, you are dead. You don't know how to read people, when to speak, when to keep quiet, when to say, ma, have you looked at it from this angle? And when to know that let me come back in one last time. Emotional intelligence will tell you that after your supervisor has been rubbished, if you allow me to use that word, by the board of directors, and that's the time you come to say, madam, do you remember tomorrow is my wedding anniversary, I'll be coming late. And that's when you want to tell her, remind her that she came in and said, can you imagine just talking to people and see people are just children, and she dropped the file on your table, enters an office and bangs the door, and 5 minutes after you go and knock and say, madam, I just said I should remind you tomorrow is my wedding anniversary, I'll be coming late. In fact, I'm even looking at that scenario in my head and I'm already pitying you. Okay, emotional intelligence, you have to understand temperaments, behavior shifts, managing pressure, work styles. You understand your madam loves her husband very much. And anytime that there is a quarrel, she comes in a particular way in the morning. You need to be able to read these signs. Or when our children are doing exam, she's under pressure because she's looking out for them. That's not the time to put additional pressure on her. It's to lighten her load. You need to be able to read all these small things. They call nuances of your job. Things that are not your job, but affect your job or control your job. These are very important things. Temperament. Is your boss the kind of person that can throw a shoe at you? Okay? But they throw a shoe at you and the next time they're asking you whether you've completed your house. And they say, okay, how can I help? Okay, you need money. Okay, let me give you 1 million. Is it enough to fix the windows? There are organs like that they will shout at the top of their voice, but they're excellent people. Okay, but there are some that are very gentle, but they will kill you. Anyway, understand your environment, your surroundings, understand the way your environment works. You know, there are principalities that are in the driver's office. A driver that has the hair of the MD. I follow Pastor Jerry. I don't know if you heard the story before when he was saying when he went to work in a place and As he was coming in, the driver said, you, come. I said, that in his mind, he was saying, do you understand that I'm a manager just employed you? And from the way you are looking, you have uniform of driver on. And the guy said, you, oh, you are the new employee. Oh, okay. You look like a good man. If you do your work well, you will succeed in this company. And he said he stood there as a manager just employed, looking at himself. Is there a way that my stature has diminished since I joined this company? Because this is a driver talking to a manager like this. So he said, but something, I think it's the Holy Spirit, told him to hold his peace. And when he got inside and saw the head of HR, and they were discussing, he said, but by the way, I saw a driver that called me you and was asking me whether I'm the new employee. And I was saying, what did you say? What did you say? He said, no, answered him politely. That is good, because that is the MD's plug. Anything he tells the MD will do. Pastor Jerry said the following morning when he was coming in, instead of going to somebody, he went straight to the driver's office to greet the man, say, good morning, sir. Thank you for the advice yesterday. Oh, in fact, I'm going to take it very serious. I'm going to work hard in this company. He said, the man said, I knew since yesterday that you are a good man. The minute I saw you, I knew you are a good man. It's emotional intelligence. It's emotional intelligence. Understanding that there are principalities and powers that may have low roles in the office, but they control things where they won't call you. It's just emotional intelligence. Confidentiality is important. I don't need to define that. Information and data gathering, comparisons, what people have done, industry feelers and all that, they are important. Now, but I want to dwell on these absorbing feelers and the environment. You know, when Ashake sang Lonely at the Top, it was not just a song. It is very, very lonely at the top. Nobody tells executives the truth. They tell them what they think they want to hear. I have a golden rule. If you are working with me, I ask you, how have I performed the first time? You say, Oga, excellent. Nobody could have done it better. I mark it. I ask you the second time that this one that we've done, say, Oga, in fact, after God is you. I ask you the third time, and you said, in fact, you are born with it. I will mark you are one of my enemies. Because no human being can do three things excellently at the same time. It's not possible. There will be gaps that you need to correct somewhere. If somebody is now telling you that the 3 times you did this, differently was excellent, that person is just a bootlicker. Look for people that will tell you the truth and bring you back to heel. It's important that we are properly grounded. So you are the one that will absorb the environment for your boss. Things that happen in the corridor, they never hear because people filter what gets to them. You are the one that will tell them that, this increase in salary that we did, some people are happy, some people will start resigning from what I'm hearing because of this, that, so that they can nip it in the bud. Okay? They don't get that kind of information because nobody tells them. But they will tell you because you are one of them in a way. And people that want to complain that don't have access, they will tell you so that because when you want to send a message to the deaf person, you send his child. It's an African proverb. You want to send a message to the deaf, you send his child to him. So you are the child of the deaf person now. They will send you to your father. So it's important you feel the environment, absorb the environment, and let them know the environment. When Chidima was reading my bio now, she mentioned that I work with Intercontinental Bank. Yes, I did. Before the bank merger, we were just a bank, just one bank. And I remember my boss, those of Akínbọ́lá, when he gets to the George Junction, if he sees people walking on the road, he will park them until his car is full. You know, he's a small statured man, and so they will actually push him to the end of the door. But we'll be gisting with them. And then he's feeling, because these are just maybe entry-level staff, they don't even have cars, junior level staff. And he'll be gisting with them. If he feels that you are saying something very, very critical or important, he will follow you to your office in front of you until he understands what you are saying. Now, Monday morning meeting where all the executives are and the HODs and all that, that's where he will come and ask those questions at those meetings. And more often than all of us will be in shock about how he had, because these are things that nobody tells the executive. So how did he hear? But he was feeling. He can just stop, meet you on the staircase and say, oh, how are you? What department are you in? And you tell him, he will follow you to your department. And when he's following you, he's looking at whether your AC is working, things that MDs do not see. Then the merger happened. And 3 banks came with him, and 4 banks came into becoming one big bank. 25, we had like over 200 billion. The money was too much in 2004. It was too much. We became a big bank. And the first thing they convinced him to do this, because we are a big bank now, he needs security, he needs an escort. And then they brought escorts. So he could no longer stop at the junction to park people, because it was high speed, escort in front, police in front, and then his car following. By the time he gets to the head office, they've held the lift down. He will just come in from the car. They will say, if you want, the other radio, you just be hearing, if you want, if you are passing. They will say, please move. If you want, and then he will come in. He will barely be able to wave at you before they usher him into the lift, and boom, he has gone to his office. He became cocoon. He didn't hear. His last meeting with us before the CBN had a problem, he said, I've been MD of this bank for over 10 years. It has never been like this. People don't come to my office any longer. How will people come when there is a security man in front of the office 24/7? It was not like that before. We met in the lift. We met on the staircase. That does not happen any longer. Even on the staircase, there's a security man in front when you are going. There's one at the back. Is it now when I will now be talking to a mopo with gun? Everybody just be waving at you from afar. Nobody felt the pulse of the environment for him again. Anyway, one of the reasons that the bank went under. You are a subtle influencer. For every EA here and PA here, if you want to get new car, you know how to get the car. You go and tell MD that your car is bad. So when they are selling the next batch of 2 cars, your name will be there. Okay? If you want to go on leave, you know how to get your leave. But if it's something important that you need to influence the MD in a particular way, you say, no, they're decision makers. Oh, I don't know. You are a subtle influencer. Say, madam, have you thought about this thing? Say, yes. But have you looked at it from this angle? You are not saying do, but you are giving them another perspective. And they listen to you because there is a measure of trust, there's a measure of discretion between what you've done with that, and there's a measure of respect for your judgment. And then you can influence some things. It's important that you are able to influence, because you have that power, so use it. You're able to influence some things. Now, let's go to our core topic for today. Gatekeeper, what are you protecting as a gatekeeper? Because we said you have control of the access. So what are you controlling? You are controlling the risk, the implications, and the outcomes. The first one is confidentiality, strategic risk. All this, I'll break this down in a minute. Sustainability of the business, reputation management for FIs. This is extremely important. Accessibility to power, decisional knowledge, and regulatory risk. I will take it one by one. Now, let me first go back to, let me mention 1 or 2 things on this slide. So if I look at strategic risk, and I ask somebody, what is the risk? The implication of missed deadlines. Can somebody, because everybody is quiet, what do you understand by strategic risk or missed deadlines? What is the risk here? And the implication? Can anybody give me an idea? Hello, Chidima, can people hear me? Can they unmute and
Yes,
speak?
sir. We'll call names. If nobody responds, we'll start to call names.
Strategic risk or missed deadlines, what can happen? Maybe from your own experience or from even understanding, what can happen here?
Mr.
Yes, Moses.
Go ahead, Mr. Moses.
Yes, for what I can understand here, when you're talking about strategic risk of missed deadline. Let's say, for example, there's a deadline for submission of an important document that could make significant impact in a bank.
Yes.
And then for one or two reasons, the deadline was not met. And because of that, the decision that was supposed to be taken was not done. So that automatically becomes a strategic risk.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, because of time, I'll take this further. And the risk here is loss of opportunities. You can say the approval was delayed for just 2 or 3 days. Imagine you grant a 10 billion naira transaction, and for the 2 or 3 days that approval was delayed, you imagine the interest income that was lost, the fees that was lost for those 2 or 3 days. That is assuming the customer has not gone to another place by the time you now come with your approval. Okay? It's not to people that understand what business is all about and leave the emperors that think that the world is actually formed for them. We do not quantify the cost of lost opportunities mostly. What you actually quantify is the amount that comes in. But we quantify the cost of lost opportunities in a bank, MD will sack a lot of people in that bank. Now, because there's a way you can calculate and quantify. So if you send in a proposal by January or February, and it doesn't come out till like March or April, as a managing director, I want to check what is the cost of this lost opportunity. Who should I punish for this? Because the year is 365 days, okay? Each day, I have calculated from strategy and budget what should come to me. Has anybody calculated losses I've made because somebody went home at 2:30 p.m. and didn't do their job? Or somebody was gisting on WhatsApp and didn't focus on what was important? Or somebody, to prove a point, refused to allow somebody see the ED because they didn't like that person? You know, what is the loss I have encountered from those transactions? It's a strategic risk, and the outcome falls under people I'm talking to now, because they are the gatekeepers that either enable those things or make those things lie. They are the gatekeepers. Okay? I just wanted to, so that I'm going to go into it, but I need us to understand that each point on this slide, okay, reflects what we do on a table daily as gatekeepers. And until we understand that we can actually promote, help, and assist the company to reach its strategic goals, or we can pull the company back, then we've not started. But once we understand that, the way we act and the way we behave will differ. I've been in legal department for most of my life. Yes, I backed into ESG for like 3-4 years, between legal and company secretarial for most of my life. And all my years, I've never seen law first. I've always seen money first. I work with the managing director that was not concerned about the finesse of your profession or how you spoke English language. He was concerned with the bottom line. He told us long time ago that there are only 2 entries in a bank, debits and credits. There is nothing like, there's a way, I'm trying to remember the way he puts it, effort, yes. That there is no column for effort, okay, in the system, It is debit entry and credit entry. Effort is nothing. Remember Sprite advert. Results is everything. So I've worked with that mindset all my adult life. What is the essence of my being here? Essence of my being here is to make a difference, okay? And everything I do, it borders down to debit or credit, profit or loss. How have I enabled the profit or caused the loss? So when I'm looking at a document, the first thing I'm looking at is how much are we making from this? If we do it, how does it help the bank? If we fail, how does it affect the bank? Now, when I get that understanding, I will now start looking at how can I make the law, interpret the law in a way that the bank will not be harmed or affected, and I will make this money. Okay? The bank will not be sanctioned or affected. The bank will not be liable, and I will make this money. Now, that mindset drives the interpretation of every law. You are not breaking the law, but you are making it work in a way that it doesn't come back to haunt the bank. That's very, very important. You need to understand your role, okay, and how it affects the greater good. Now, confidentiality, but you know, I said earlier that a lot of people that talk to us, they talk to us because of what we are able to provide. I've been company secretary for over 20 years. When I'm telling you this, I understand what I'm saying. You are one of the most popular people in the office, not because they like you. It's because of what they can get from you. They want to get things to the MD. They know you are the gates. They want to understand what is flowing in everybody. They know you are the gates. They know that you'll be there when MD is talking to EDs on the phone or whatever. They know you overhear things. And so that's the reason they are your friends. Now, you may not want to tell them directly, but in gisting with people or just dropping whatever, you can let these things out, especially when they're giving you 2 or 3 bottles of trophy on a Friday evening with pepper soup or suya. When you are already, when you are a bit loose, you are a bit comfortable, you just drop some gems. Those gems, they are writing it down because it's what they are going to use, but you do not know. If you are a PLC, for example, people take you out so they can get sensitive information from you, but you won't know that's what they are doing. When I was in Intercontinental, our peak insurance was one of subsidiaries. It was a PLC. Somebody actually called me to say, Alausa, you support this company as company secretary. What are you planning that can affect your price? Can you imagine? So which means they know that in that meeting, there will be initiatives, things that they are going to do that will affect our profit. And if profit goes up, it affects the price. So the guy wants to understand what they are doing that can affect our profit so that he can lock in now when the share price is low and then take the upside after we have executed those initiatives. Whether you like it or not, you have access to that information that people are looking for, and people cultivate you for it. The question is, do you allow yourself to be used that way? Okay, because people relate with you. Many years ago, I was legal advisor of a region. Region had 54 or 66 branches. At that time, I think I was an assistant manager, and they had a regional director that was a general manager. However, I was company secretary of like 2 subsidiaries of the bank, where the most powerful directors of the bank sat as members of the board. I didn't understand that I was an important personality until the regional director called me one day and said, Alausa, please come and see me in my office. And I went there. And he said, Alausa, I'm saying this because the man is late now. So even if he prays it, the man is late. Nothing can happen to him. He said, Alausa, how do you advise me on this matter? Now, because it is not the bank board, but when directors meet, banter, gisting, they say things they want to do at the bank board meeting. And I hear. So he said, this particular matter, have you heard? I said, well, I've heard 1 or 2 things about it. He said, how does he handle it? I said, okay, I don't know, but in my mind, if you do this and this, it can work. He said, thank you. He did it. I didn't know what he was targeting was to get a bigger, more profitable region. He got that region and left me a region that was not making money. He didn't remember when he was going to take me along with him. He left me there in that region. But he used the information I gave him to go to the region that was making money. End of that year, this region didn't remember, I got 100,000. He got almost 50 or 60 million. He didn't take me there, but he used the information I gave him to go. But me, he left me there. So I learned my lesson the hard way. If you like, talk to me from morning till night. It's as if you are talking to a concrete block. I'll be saying, oh, okay. You cannot, what's it called? Thunder cannot strike twice. If he had taken me to that region, maybe I would have been appreciative, but he left me there. And we didn't make profit. We still didn't make profit that year. I got 100,000, and people end up with our entry level were getting 6, 7 million. Yeah, I got 100,000 because we didn't make profit. And it was the information I gave him that he used. So I learned my lesson the hard way. Strategic risk I've already mentioned here. We've already discussed it. The implication is what you should be looking out for. The loss. The loss. It leads to delay, strategic failure, because your own instance may be, your own experience may be one instance. However, by the time you had it across the system, several departments, several divisions, if you had it all up, it boils down to strategic failure. So you'll be saying, we have initiatives in this bank. Execution is the problem. And why execution is the problem? Because nobody is focused on strategic risk. And the people that drive it indirectly are the people that I have on this call. Missed opportunities, reminders, milestone tie downs. Those are your obligations. Okay? Research on business, payers. You are asking yourself, what is a Sterling Bank doing? What is a First Bank doing? So you look at, because each bank has its peers that they've agreed at society level that these are peers now on the basis of strategy, size, capital, and all that. These are the people we are benchmarking ourselves against. What are they doing? Information is available online on these companies. Can you gather those things in relation to what your guy is doing? If your guy is in charge of retail banking or corporate banking or even corporate services, gather this information and say, ma or sir, this is what they are doing in this bank. Do a table and compare. And put your own by the side and let her just see, or let him just see it. He may not be thinking along those lines. Yes, strategy may bring it at ESCO meeting, but your own is probably weekly. So on the spot assessment is going on. Now, remember, they've not asked you to do this, but they want doing research on your own. And that's the way you magnify your table. They see you as able to do more than you are able to do. They will not give you power, you will snatch it. And after a while, you just discover that your guy comes on Monday morning, you should be asking, is that report on my table? Report that nobody sent you, but is already looking forward to it. Because you are mindful of strategic risk and missed opportunities. It's important that we understand that. Now, sustainability is important. It's something that you manage on your table. If you just go to accessible filing system, and let me ask, if you are not at work, can your boss find anything? Everywhere I've worked, I've always said, let's have a shared file so that everybody in the unit has access to that shared file. So everybody has a file in the shared file. I can click on Alausa zone, I can click on Magdel zone, I can click on Emmanuel zone, if all of us are in that department. So that official documents are in that file. I don't need to ask you or look for you to get access to that file. Okay, because I'm already configured. And there's audit trail anyway. So if I go into that file, everybody will see all the audit trail. So that I don't have to keep calling you. Where are you? Okay, are you able to take a call now? Okay, and do you remember this letter? This is it. And then, oh, okay, can you send it to me now? I'm sorry, ma. I'm not in a place where I have network now, ma. When I pass, when I get to the village, I will. What is all that? Accessible filing system. If you are not around, if something happens to you, can the system, can the department run? Can your boss function? Even if you have a manual filing system, can she open that door and not just be looking at it because she's lost? Have you done it alphabetically, names, or whatever style that you have adopted, so that anybody can come into that system and run? Do you have SOP? So that anybody that comes new in your department, you just give that person that document, and the person reads and is able to function on your table immediately without talking to anybody. These are things to think about. Is your business sustainable on your desk? On your desk. On your desk. Because you are the operational bridge of information, whether in the event of crisis or not, or unavailability. In the event of crisis, is even important. When everywhere is lost, are you able to say, okay, this is what was decided, I can get it for you. All of us are sleeping and facing the same way. And my principal is lost, I'm also lost. And then I would just say, madam, I came like 3-4 years ago. This thing happened before I joined you. You have inherited 10 years before you joined, if you don't know. You have inherited it. Just get the information. Just get the information. So sustainability is extremely, extremely important. I think my time is fast spent, but reputation is the bedrock of every financial institution. As a gatekeeper, this is one of your most important duties. Reputation. Optics is like the airports in Nigeria. When you enter Nigeria, you first go to the airport. And then when you go out of the airport, you face the airspace. Now, why do you think they repaired the Murtala Mohammed access? I made it look dual carriageway, look like America and London. It's so that at least before people start looking at their iPad, for the first 2-3 minutes when they come out of the plane and get into a vehicle, you see a lighted environment before they get to Oshodi and Oshodi. Now, how do Oshodi cut all our stars, before they even get to that place, that main road, the 3-lane, everywhere, service lane, everything well ordered, lighted. Oh, okay. So we mean what I'm saying about Nigeria is wrong. Okay, this is okay, this is good. That is why you are like the airport and the access. Management of optics. Reputation is important. What impression are people leaving you with? People come from outside to meet, okay? Internal people come from inside to meet. You speak to people on the phone, okay? You send emails to people. How do you appear to them? And how does it affect your reputation? Because the matter of perception. Perception is reality. I worked in a farm for 5-6 years. And that farm I had done for 15 years before I got there, and I was there for 5 years. And in that 20 years, CBN did not give that company any sanction. The company did not get one sanction, not one, in 20 years. Now, the company had done it so much that it was so close to CBN staffers at departments that supervise the bank, such that even when we make a mistake and send the letter, they will call us to retrieve that letter and write it in a particular way. When Basel II started, 2000 and no, not two, this two, one and then two, yeah, Basel II, Basel III, yeah. When it started, 2010, 2011, 2012, this company I'm talking about went to Abuja, got someone for this management department of Abuja, flew this person to Lagos as a consultant. And this person, before CBN released the framework with all the risk managers and credit people in this company and took them through what CBN expected. Put him in an hotel for 3 days, Friday to Sunday, paid his hotel, gave him driver. So after the training, he can go out anywhere he wants to in Lagos. Driver of the bank as his best and call. We were one of the first people to comply with Basel 3 expectation of CBN. Because the person that will mark it is the person that came to train and staff. You need to be able to work in a way so that customer, regulator, shareholder, and even staff have the impression that you want them to have of you is important. Reputation management. Because reputation determines whether people bank or don't bank with you. And I'll give an example. When the likes of Intercontinental Bank, Oceanic Bank, when they went down, can anybody remember the banks that took advantage of it? You can omit if you remember the banks that took advantage of it. Can anybody remember the banks that took advantage? Nobody can. Nobody can.
Well, I, for one, I know my branch took advantage of it when I was in UBA. So I can say my branch of UBA.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. The bank that took advantage. Now, UBA took advantage because of his long-standing, as a first-generation bank and solidity. The same thing with First Bank, solidity. The major bank that took advantage of the fall of Intercontinental Bank and Oceanic Bank was GT Bank. If you recall, GT Bank at that time, after the fall of those banks, their operating systems had a problem because the influx of customers, they were not built as a retail bank at that time. They were built more like, it was like an egalitarian bank, something like a class, a bank of people that had class and all that. It was just like when Zenith Bank started, when you only open an account with 1 million. It was a bank that maintained a form of status. But that is the bank where the advert shows you when you're coming down from a car, there's somebody holding an umbrella over your head. That was the advert. Okay? They will shield you into the hall. And so that was it. People already had accounts. So when those banks fell, everybody was going to GTB. If you didn't want to go to First Bank, if you didn't want to go to UBA, if you didn't want to go to Union Bank at that time, Union Bank also had problems. So if you didn't want to go to those banks at that time, the new generation bank that people appealed to people was GTB. And it was basically perception. Perception. They took full advantage. The influx of deposits of customers, it was a lot. It affected their system. They had to quickly expand within a month or two. Okay? So invariably, they now had to expand and then they got the hang of it. It was perception. Now, they just sat down in their office and business came because of how people felt about them. It's important. And then inside that perception, what are people saying? People, what are they saying about the system? Or what are you saying to them from your table? I don't understand this one. All these cities are just enjoying themselves. This one is going to London tomorrow. And me here, they've not even paid me any bonus. And he's going to London. You don't even see us at all. And that's coming from you to people that think you are enjoying because you work in this office. And that's coming. I will say, if Madeleine is the one saying it is true. They don't even have any plan for us. Okay, insider perception is important. And then control of destructive rumors, speculation. I work in a bank. I won't mention the name of the bank. On the table of, because they don't want to increase salary at that time. But, they will put on the table of the ED, they will put a review of staff salary. They will put arguments going to the board, and then they will leave it on the table of the ED. So cleaners that come in the morning, they will see the memo, they will read it. They will go and call manager, come and see. Salary will soon be increased. The rumor will go around the bank. All of us will start working like mad people. Salary is going to increase. Salary is going to increase. First month, second month, third month, we would have almost made the target of the quarter. Everybody is overworking and overachieving. Before we discovered that memo was put there deliberately to mislead everybody. And then we discovered that, we have been hard, we have been hard. And then the motivation will be more than before we saw the memo. When that happened like 2 times, when people see that, we just say, they started again. Distrust all over the place, affecting reputation. Now, I don't know how many of us saw the interview of Mr. Alade Komo, the first MD of Champs PLC. When he was talking, and this was about 2 or 3 weeks ago, when he was talking about Champs almost getting to a point of liquidation. But Champs to the outside world was an excellent company. That was the image that was portrayed and maintained. But internally, they were going through serious problems. In fact, he said that they were not going to last more than that month. They were on their last leg of cash. After that month, they were dead. And then there was this big federal government project linked to cards and all that. And then one of the people they called was Champs PLC. Because based on their reputation. And then they jumped. They joined, and then they won. And James is still standing today because of that singular contract. Now, what aided them? Reputation. You must guard reputation. It's important. It's not everything you hear that must go out. It's not everything you hear that you start to react to. You start to react to it. You are a gatekeeper, and reputation is within the things that you have to guard jealously. It's very, very important. Accessibility to power, I think what I will just pick here is just the schedules and then the fiction of invitations and letters. In the case study that I'm going to look at, we will see something that will relate to invitations and letters, how you prioritize it, okay? How you filter what is important and what is not important. The ones that quickly write a response on behalf of your principal and show it to your principal to approve as it's being sent out is important. Accessibility to power is because you are the gatekeeper. You are the one that allows business-minded people to come in, and then you can even schedule the way people come in. You can say between 9 and 3 is only business people that will come in. Between 4, with the permission of your principal, you can schedule access to this person so that you tilt towards business-minded things and then reduce the para for my village people things that happens in the office. Then and those people can stay for 2 or 3 hours. They will just be laughing and gisting, eating biscuit on the table, and ED will be wrapped in so just wasting everybody's time. So your accessibility, you are the one that will agree with this. Your principal, I can schedule between 10 and so. Business people can come between so and so time, and they will know that if you have anything to sign for ED, you come at this time, and then let everybody know, and then business moves on. Institutional knowledge, historical information and events, you are also the custodian of this thing. Regulatory risk, I don't need to explain to everybody. But what I will need us to focus on is that you have to be proactive. You have to be proactive in preparing for obligations, scheduling, and alerts. Now, apart from scheduling, do you actually prepare your principal for this meeting or for this deadline? You know, when Ms. Jani was talking, she said you have to help the executive with the pre-work. The pre-work is important so that it makes it easier for them to make those decisions because they have the necessary ingredients to enable them to make the decision. Okay, you have to prepare them. So apart from scheduling, you have to prepare the executive for the meeting and decisions, the resolutions, matters arising from previous discussions, outstanding issues and all that. How do you document those for them? Especially for the EA. You can say the PA has less to do with it, but the EA, this important task, who reminds them, who documents them, who follows up on them, who tells them what has been done or what is outstanding, and the reason it's outstanding, or on whose table it is, who follows up on those things. This is part of your gatekeeping work, and this is how you assist. Now, critical skills, judgments. You know, I worked with a fantastic lawyer some time ago, one of my colleagues. Fantastic advocate. When he analyzes the law, it's excellent. But when he applies it to the company, if we allow him to do it, he will win all of us. So I will ask him to go and do the analysis and send it to me without judgment, without recommendation. I will read it and bring my recommendation out to myself. Well, we had to ask him to go after a while because he was a senior member of staff. And I can't read everything. But if his judgment is poor, then there's problem. I will give an example. If we analyze all this law and say, at the bottom, we will say, well, the bank is at fault in this, and the bank should go and pay the guy the 4.5 billion that is asking. The bank is at risk. And then if the bank pays this 4.5 billion, how much do you think we'll have at the end of the year as capital? He will say, no, sir. The bank is at risk now. What am I talking about? The bank is guilty in this matter. The bank is at fault. The bank should go and pay. That's his judgment. I'm asking, so can the bank avoid the 4.5 billion? Can we do out of cost settlement? Can we just pay 100 million? He say no, that this the gravity of what the bank did, that in fact that staff should be sacked. I said this guy will put me in trouble one day because I won't be on my seat one day. This guy will sign memo And this memo will go out or reply a letter, and then I will be in trouble. We have to ask him to go. And what is judgment? Assessing a situation and taking steps towards a desirable outcome. So it's a mix of your competence, your experience, your understanding of the environment, expectations. Now, if you say you don't have authority, you say you don't have authority of your principal, okay? You don't know the level of how far you can go in acting on their behalf. The reason this is happening is judgment. It's judgment, okay? When you show that you understand the implication of what you are doing and the risk to the establishment, you begin to get more latitude in judgment because you know you are mature, okay? You know you understand what it takes. But if you don't do that, my brother, my sister, you won't get anywhere. Judgment is extremely important as a skill. Emotional intelligence, I've talked about understanding yourself, your boss, understanding your role and limitations, and then understanding your environment. Again, I say recognize the principalities and powers. They are everywhere. Principalities and powers. They may look small on the surface, but they are mighty in the spirit. Principalities and powers. You may not see them because they are not in high places. They are always so maybe an SBO somewhere tucked behind the table, an assistant manager somewhere that you don't even know. And this person has direct contact to the shareholder, what's more, majority shareholder of the company. These are people, you just see that problem is just landing on the table every day. What is causing this problem? You won't know. Is that principality and power? You won't know. So emotional intelligence is important for you to decipher these things, okay? For you to identify these things. Accountability is important. I'm rushing now because I see that my time is fast spent. Now, branding. I think I need to talk about branding. You know, branding is extremely important. Now, personal branding, how do you appear to people? Apart from dressing, attitude, courage, how do you appear to people? Because this is the reason if some of us get disrespected. The reason is here on this slide. Personal and professional branding. As EA, you are someone of mid-level status or even junior status on a very big seat. So how do you bridge the gulf between your grade and your role so that people see you as they should see you without seeing your grade? It's branding. Personal and professional branding. Competence plus confidence plus knowledge equals branding. Okay? Competence plus confidence plus knowledge equals branding. How do you carry yourself? Okay? How do you dress? How do you speak? Where do they find you in the system? Who are your friends in the system that they see you with? When people are shouting on the corridor, they see you also there shouting on the corridor, disturbing everybody. This is food for thought for all of us. You know, for me, branding was extremely important from the beginning of my career. I had a company secretary that was fortunate that told us that whatever you want people to think about you is not by chance. You have to deliberately cultivate it. People that you want to be seen with, especially in the office, people you want around your table, how you speak, how you even walk, how you dress. All these things must be deliberate for you to come out in a particular way. Because if you don't do it that way, they will relegate you to the rest. Let me amuse you. Many years ago, I was an assistant manager, and then a GM sent his stylist to me. That one came to sell suits to him in the office. So he said they should go and call me. So I went there. I said, hello, sir. This my guy is selling suits, so I want you to buy from him. I said, no, sir. I can't buy from this person you are buying. I said, you can be looking at me, sir. It may look like it. It is not it. It may look like it is not it. I cannot afford the suit that you wear as a general manager when I'm an assistant manager, sir. I cannot. He said, no. I said, hey. I said, no, I know, Alasa, no, it's not. I said, no. Okay, I won't even ask him how much he sells the suits because I cannot afford what to wear. Okay, it may look like it, but it's not it. My own is the dry cleaning. I don't use my hand to wash my shirt. They dry clean it. My tie, so I can appear as if it's looking like that, but it is not it. Now, what will make a GM to go and ask an assistant manager to buy a suit from where he's buying suits? Is it his bonus we are talking about or salary? I need to understand. Is how you have carried yourself that will make him think that you are able to afford what he's wearing. Important, personal branding. How you portray, how they see you is important. Now, I also put under personal branding here, next steps. What happens after? If people see you as not beyond the job, they limit you to the job. When people see the skills you have as beyond the job, they treat you in a different way. So ask yourself, and this is a question for that you can take away. After this EA role, what next? What next? What skill am I displaying on this my EA role that is beyond this EA role? Is already an add-on that is making my work better. What skills am I trying to acquire that will help this my EA role, but will take me to the next place I'm going to? Or is your plan to work for 25, 30 years and retire as EA? Next steps. What's your next career move post the executive support role that you have? I won't ask for an answer, but I need us to bear that in mind. This is my conclusion, and I will take questions and comments and discussions thereafter. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. I think we've had a very brilliant session today. So I think it's time for us to go into the breakout session. Let me just quickly project what the case studies session discussion would be on. A moment, please. Can we confirm if you can see our screen? Can any of the participants please confirm that you can see my screen?
Yes, I can see your screen.
All right, thank you, perfect. Okay, so we'll be going through this case study. It says the confidential acquisition, yes. When I share you into groups, this will be projected on the screen so you can read through. Thereafter, there are questions that, group 1 and group 2 would discuss amongst themselves, and it's labeled there. So please give me a moment to, separate everybody into groups, and thereafter we can have our discussions. Then I'll collapse groups back rather, and then we can, present. Thereafter, we'll have Q&A for Mr. Adewi. Thank you so much. A moment, please.
And obtain documented approval of information from the GMD or an authorized governance member, if there's a case like that, that will allow her release that document. We said she can delay action until she gets feedback from the MD. She can stall the manager. In case it's a senior person, you can just say, okay, I'll get right back to you. Just give me a few minutes. So she can stall the manager. And then she can also even probably probe further to say, sir, please, can I see the approval you claim you have that gives you access to this document? So we all agree that no, on no account should Amara release this document to the executive claiming verbal authorization, as this could be a confidentiality breach and lead to other reputational, regulatory damage if he gets it unauthorized. So for number 2, we said, what is the most appropriate, the question said, what is the most appropriate response to journalists seeking confirmation? So the case study, we said there was journalists that called and was seeking Amara's confirmation of a claim or information that was already in the media. So we said, on no account should Amara confirm or deny. So Amara will not even deny, talk more of confirming. She will say she's not authorized to comment on those matters, and also direct the journalists to the corporate communications department or investor relations or any authorized channel that information is authorized by the bank to be, by the company, sorry, to be released to the public. So she should also notify the GMD, if possible, that this inquiry has been made by a media person, so that the bank or the organization is able to manage whatever it is that is already circulating ahead of rumors and speculations. Then finally, the third question was on policies and escalation procedures and governance frameworks that should guide our action. We listed quite a number during our discussion. We said information security and confidentiality policy should guide her in knowing who to release information to. This defines clearly access control and authorized parties to receive any information across an organization. They also said she should be guided by the media and communication policy as regards the journalist seeking information. We also said she should be guided by the code of conduct and ethics policy that expects her as in that office to exhibit the utmost ethics of her profession and conduct of that office. Then we also talked about escalation protocols involving the chain of command, how information flows from maybe the MD to GH strategy to other stakeholders. So she must be guided by how the escalation policy of organization is, and ensure that when information is to be passed, it flows through that approved channel. So in summary, our responsibility was to protect confidential information, follow approved procedures, and maintain proper authorization controls, and escalate if necessary. So these are our discussion summary. And in all, we think Amara should not release documents, neither should she respond to journalists, and she should follow the appropriate procedures for escalation and be guided by the policies of institutions in her actions as regards this incident. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ajayi. Thank you so much. Mr. Lausa, or Mr. Adebuyi rather, would you please allow us to take the second group before you now respond to everybody?
Yeah, okay.
Okay, thank you so much. Group 2, Mr. Emmanuel Ujo, please, the floor is yours.
All right, good afternoon, sir. This is Emmanuel Ujo from Keystone. All right, so we are group 2 and we are tackling question 4, 5, and 6. All right, so for question 4, we say what governance risk arises when assistants bypass access control procedures under pressure. And we talked about unauthorized access and reputational damage, financial and legal damage. If an assistant bypasses access control under pressure. Then next one is say, in what way did Amara's role extend beyond administrative into governance risk gatekeepers? Because Amara's role has extended because the executive has practically gained Amara's trust, and she's not the primary gatekeeper of the office. She has access to information, and she a custodian of the confidential information of the office, and they need to be guided. So now, because the executive has gained her trust and she has released information to Amara, now as her role has extended beyond an administrative role and now a gatekeeper, and she needs to guide those informations jealously. So we're looking at that one. Then the last one is if you were Amara, how would you balance responsiveness to leadership with your duty to protect confidential information? Well, what we discussed here is what Amara should be diplomatic in responding to seniors so as not to enter into the black book of the seniors, and also she should decline every information or every request concerning the information being required. And also, even if any information required, she should practically get clearance from my principal before anything can be disseminated. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ojo. Okay, so we yield the floor back to Mr. Adu. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, thank you so much. The two groups have answered the questions very well. I will just mention for the first group the positioning of the printer of the assistant is suspect. Now, and it goes back to what I said about understanding our role and the risks that we face on our roles. I don't think the printer should be in a place where anybody can see what is coming out of it. So the printer should be behind you, not in front of you. You must arrange in a way that even when you are typing in your system, people that are facing on your table cannot see what you are typing. So you need to arrange your table and everything around your table, your tools in a way that you are mindful that your job is of confidential nature. That needs to be put in perspective very well. So please, I'm sure somebody mentioned that there's already a breach because someone was printed from the printer, and that is germane. Why should they? If you come into my office, for example, my printer is behind me. If I have to stretch to get things from my printer, even from my table. So by the time you are passing my table and coming to my phone, I'll be asking you, this handshake is going beyond the elbow. What are you doing there? What are you looking for? So there is a way we need to appreciate the kind of jobs we do and the things that we see and our tools, and then try to marry both and anticipate that those things can happen. That's what I will add to group one. For group two, I understand that you need to be in the good books of executives, but we'll be fooling ourselves to think that all executives will speak for us every time. They don't have a time. That's the truth. We are the list of what they think about. And so we don't want to offend the executive, and at the same time, we expose ourselves to liability, and then eventually we can lose our jobs. The executive asking you for that information knows the policy of the company already. So why are they even asking you for it? In my career, I've seen instances where people are asking for information they should not ordinarily get and trying to bully their way through. A simple response to say, I have acknowledged your request, madam. I copied MD. Or please, just a mail saying that, thank you, madam, but just a little understanding. My instruction from MD is that this kindly get the approval of MD. And that's where the matter will end. They may have bad blood, but at times, when you stand on your ground like that, they respect you without being rude and not, because they know that that information they are asking for, they are not entitled to it in the first place. And then this person asking for that information knows that there is a way you get information in the company. Why are they asking you verbally? It's using stature to bully you, really, and they know. So at times you may have to stand your ground and say, I mean, everybody knows if you're asking me to send something to the board, for example, and it's out of cycle, it won't happen. Some people can say, okay, maybe my grade is a bit high and all that, and maybe I can defend myself, but that is not it. Everybody faces at every level. People will try to bully you to doing things. They will say they've spoken to MD, send this approval to the chairman. It's not going to happen. I'm going to send a mail to the MD. I received this request. I just need to confirm that I have your concurrence. At times they will say step it down. So which means he probably discussed it, but he didn't understand that they wanted to send it to the chairman. Say step it down. Or he will say send. Then if I send, I know I'm acting with instruction, because when the chiefs are down, and ladies and gentlemen, executives develop amnesia. They don't remember that discussion with you. They will say possibly it happened, but I can't recall, which means you are OYO or yo. And so for you not to be OYO, you have to be circumspect in the things we do. So again, the questions were answered very well, but I just need to put those one or two things together. The reason they put you in that role that you are in is because they believe that you exercise good judgment, and not because somebody's trying to bully you and disappoint people that put you there. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. I'm sure we have all picked a lot of things from this session on being the governance gatekeeper. You know, Mr. Adewiya said, he just said something about, how you will not know, but when they said that when two elephants fight, it's the grass that will suffer. In this instance, it could be the assistant, your principal and other principal, they even have internal beef that you're not even aware of, and it knows that you're not supposed to share particular information with them, but they will still reach out to you, But I think now, based on the explanation that Mr. Adewi has given, you now know how you can handle such scenarios. So thank you once again, Mr. Adewi. Do we have questions for Mr. Adewi before, we move to the closing remarks, because we've come to the end of today's training program. So anybody has any questions, need any additional clarification from Mr. Adewi, please, the floor is yours. We'll just take one question, please. Anybody? All right. Okay. So I'm not seeing any hands, so I'll just proceed to say that thank you so much again, everyone. I will be using the floor to my colleague, Miss Maru Yoruba. So she'll be giving the closing remark. But before then, please, Mrs. Nabo, is there any comments you have? Is there anything you want to say before we give the floor to Maru?
Nothing. I just want to appreciate everyone for joining. Thank you, Mr. Adewi. Thank you so much, and thank you to all the participants. We really appreciate everyone for joining, and thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. We know that it's a lot to ask executive assistants, PAs, TAs, to join a training on Saturdays, because the comments we've gotten in previous days are that, Saturdays, weekends are when they get to rest a lot. So we really appreciate, we don't take it for granted that you've made out time to be here this morning or this morning stroke afternoon. So thank you very much. Maru, please, the floor is yours. Closing remarks, please. Thank you.
Okay, hello everyone. Good afternoon. I hope we've had a nice time. Thank you for giving us 5 hours, 17 minutes of your time. We're really grateful and we appreciate everything you've done, from the pre-assessment questions to registering and everything. I also want to thank the facilitators, Mrs. Emanuela, Tajini, and Mr. Alausa. We're very grateful for your time. We appreciate your knowledge and sharing your knowledge with every single one of us here. Even we that are not PAs and EAs, we learned a lot from you. We are very grateful. I hope we're able to learn a lot from Mrs. Emanuela, on how to manage risk, how to communicate risk, and how to push our careers forward. Because I noticed with the slide, that was what the larger percentage of us wanted, to know how to move from EAs to another roles, explaining how to research roles, understand the business, and, just push your career to the next level. And I think for Miss Manuela, one thing I really learned from her was how to use AI in a safe way. I did not know there was a safe and unsafe way on how to use AI and how to protect the banks, because it's a financial institution and it's well regulated. And I want to thank Mr. Lausa too for teaching us. I think what I picked the most for me was how to present yourself, right? It was very interesting listening to the story of how the managing director expected him to be able to afford the suits that he wore. I think that just shows how well he had done in presenting himself in that position and in his role as an executive assistant. Anyway, thank you guys so much for your time. Thank you for everything, for listening, for participating in the group discussion, and have a nice day. I hope there are no any questions. If you have any other questions, you should also reach out to the facilitators, or you could reach out to us and we'll reach out to the facilitators for you. But apart from that, have a nice day. Thank you so much for your time. And we hope that when we send after, what's it called? Our surveys. Yes, our surveys, you'll be able to fill it and we'll be able to give you your certificate. Thank you so much, and see you in 2027 PAE and TA training session. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
Thank you, everyone. Please don't log out yet. Oh, go ahead, Mr. Abatunde. You were saying something.
No, I was thanking Bidan and everyone.
Thank you. Thank you as well. Thank you as well. So we'll be sending feedback forms to everyone today. Please, 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 please enable to fill this form. As is our usual practice. In fact, included in the form, you'd be asked how you would want your names to appear on your certificate. So it's very crucial that you fill this form, as it's important for you to get your certificate. So please fill the feedback form. And as my colleague has said, Maro, if you have any questions, if you have any feedback, anything at all, please endeavor to reach out to the secretariat. Thank you so much. I can see someone has raised a question in the chat, asking when we get the recordings and presentation. So we'll try our best to send the presentation by Monday next week. However, for the recordings, we need to work on them. And yes, when it's uploaded to our YouTube channel, we would communicate that to participants so they can go there and review and rewatch and all that, and just refresh your memory of what has been discussed today. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great rest of your weekend. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye. Thank you so much, sir.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.